Chapter 2070. With a loud bang, the long whip was aimed at Su Yi's head. Bang! Su Yi did not stop moving. It was as though he had eyes on his back. With a slight tilt of his body, he dodged the golden python whip with ease. Damn it! Let's see where you can run to, you stinky herb gatherer. Longya was flustered and exasperated as she waved the whip in her hand. Exploding golden shadows spread all over his body, like countless snake shadows, opening their bloody mouths. Bang! Bang! The grass and trees exploded and cracks spread out on the ground. It was a ghastly sight. However, Su Yi did not pay any attention to it and continued to move forward. With the protection of the golden dragon's soul and golden dragon's blood essence, Su Yi was able to track Long Ya's movements even without looking. The two of them shuttled back and forth in the valley. Long Ya was puzzled as to why Su Yi was always able to dodge her attacks. Glaring at Su Yi, who was as agile as a dancing butterfly, Long Ya's footsteps were mysterious and varied. She fully unleashed her strength as an LV6 Grandmaster. Suddenly, the distance between Long Ya and Su Yi was getting closer and closer. At this moment, the two of them had arrived at a mountain valley. Walala! Under the mountain valley, the water flowed rapidly. There was a huge aura of an expert hidden in the winding mountains and rivers. The ancient and heavy aura was hidden in the cool water vapor. Su Yi looked from afar and stopped in his tracks. The golden dragon token that was hidden in front of his chest glowed. Su Yi focused his gaze and looked around. The surrounding flowers and grass were lush and luxuriant, far more than what he had seen before. His gaze sank and fell on the stream water that was like flying jade and splashing pearls. However, his thoughts were once again shattered by the shadow of a whip. Instantly, Su Yi's figure flashed like a phantom. He turned his head coldly, and his body shook. A surge of qi gushed out as he said angrily, "Are you done? What a noisy woman." Long Ya had never been spoken to in such a manner before. She became even more furious and said with a sharp gaze, "Isu, what did the village chief say to you just now? If you want to know, then go ask the village chief. If you aren't ruthless enough and don't want to kill them, then don't try to get anything out of me." Su Yi shrugged. He was like a lion that was about to explode, his eyes fierce. Long Ya was instantly stunned while the feeling of humiliation for being seen through surged in her beautiful eyelashes, and she was visibly moved as she said, "What exactly are you looking for?" Su Yi laughed coldly. Now that things had turned out this way, his guess was completely correct. Long Ya was looking for the guardian deity in Upper Dragon Village. She did not want to kill the village chief as well. She did not want to kill him, which made her identity was even more mysterious. Su Yi was not sure if she was from the Dragon Clan. Then, Su Yi shrugged his shoulders. His body moved like lightning, turning into a series of afterimages. He took a few steps forward and said softly, "I'll look for whatever you're looking for. Be quiet. Don't be like a sparrow there." Long Ya frowned. Her killing intent was getting stronger and stronger. Her right hand, which was holding the long whip, turned pale. But she knew that she could not disturb Su Yi at this time. She always had a feeling that the man in front of her could lead her to what she wanted. After a short while, they were still in a stalemate. Su Yi was searching with a plan. In the end, Long Ya finally stopped pestering him. She followed him closely with her slender legs. Su Yi looked around and carefully searched the ground. According to the village chief's instructions, Su Yi went from Upper Dragon Village to Lower Dragon Stream. Su Yi kept walking toward the water. He glanced at Long Ya behind him and felt helpless. He laughed in his heart and continued to walk forward. "You led the black pig here. Why did you save Lu Qi?" Su Yi squatted down and smelled the herbs in his hand. Long Ya's eyes softened. She brushed her golden hair aside and looked at him coldly. She said, "You knew it all along. Why didn't you tell me at that time?" Su Yi chuckled and stood up. He clapped his hands and continued to walk to the stream. He said, "I didn't know whether he was a friend or a foe. I didn't have to stand up for Upper Dragon Village." After a pause, Su Yi said coldly, "No matter what your purpose is, as long as you don't hurt Upper Dragon Village, I won't kill you." "You? Are you threatening me?" Long Ya seemed to have heard the best joke. If Su Yi didn't know how to find the guardian, she would have killed him. Su Yi shook his head. A killing intent flashed in his eyes. He stared at Longya's blue eyes and said, I'm not threatening you. I'm informing you. All of a sudden, Longya seemed to have sensed the astonishment of the arrival of an expert. Her imposing manner suddenly weakened, and her voice became weaker. Okay, I don't want to hurt Upper Dragon Village, but if you find that thing and want to snatch it from me, you will die. Su Yi shrugged, the corners of his mouth curling into a smile. You're the first woman who's ever tried to snatch something from me. Bang! Longya lashed out her whip again. At this time, Su Yi no longer dodged. He looked serious and turned around as if he had changed into another person. Su Yi had an ordinary face of 25 or 26 years of age. His deep eyes were as bright as a divine pond as he stared at Longya. Suddenly, Longya felt that the man in front of her was extremely powerful and extraordinary. His face was not outstanding, but there was a kind of domineering aura. Longya even felt the domineering aura of her grandfather and the dragon god from Su Yi. Looking at Su Yi hold her python whip so easily, Su Yi drew circles with his palm and gradually put away the whip. He then walked step by step toward Longya. Suddenly, Longya's entire body seemed to be completely sealed by Su Yi's surging soul energy. What a strong soul energy! Longya exclaimed. An Origin Grandmaster was actually sealed by the soul energy of an Origin Emperor? How is this possible? Hundreds of thoughts flashed through Longya's mind, and she felt a chill run down her spine. Longya's pupils shrank as the man in front of her gradually enlarged. Longya shouted angrily as she saw his unique aura lingering in front of her. What are you doing? Oh, before she could finish her sentence, Longya's lips were sealed by Su Yi's palm. Longya frowned and looked coldly at the man in front of her. Su Yi's body exploded with a mighty aura that seemed to have transcended the heavens and the earth. All of it poured into Longya's body. Longya's body stiffened as Su Yi brought her to hide behind a big tree. Under the shade of the tree, the two of them were in an ambiguous position. Shoo! Su Yi pressed Longya tightly against the tree to avoid the light. Their auras quickly merged. Longya's pretty face was filled with embarrassment and anger. She could only hear Su Yi's voice transmission. Shut up. There are people above. Can't you see them? Longya followed Su Yi's line of sight and saw two extremely fast and fierce figures floating above her head. If she did not pay attention, she would have thought that they were two big birds. Chapter 2071. This should be the person that the Upper Dragon Village is worried about. You stay here and protect yourself. The pressure will be removed in the next moment. Longya's eyes widened as her body stiffened. Su Yi gently opened her tender lips, and a mellow medicinal fragrance entered her mouth. Longya could only whimper as she transmitted her voice. Smelly gatherer, what did you feed me? Let me go. Su Yi, who was gradually becoming transparent, flew over the valley and dove straight down. Boom! The dull sound of water splashing echoed. Longya relaxed, as if she had just woken up from a dream. Her eyes widened in fear as she placed her hands on her knees and took deep breaths. After coming out of the Brahma Dragon Celestial Palace, Longya never dreamed that she would be subdued by an Origin Emperor twice. It wasn't the suppression of martial arts. It was the suppression of bloodline. When she looked at Su Yi just now, Longya actually felt her heart throbbing before Su Yi's soul pressure. With lingering fear, she licked her tender lips that were filled with medicinal fragrance. Thinking of the scene when their eyes met, Longya's heart was boiling with anger and her cheeks began to burn. Isu, I'm going to kill you. Feeling that her aura was perfectly restrained due to the elixir, Longya was shocked. She strolled to the valley. Under the valley, snow surged and turbulent, and the cold was purged. Everything was washed away by the rapid flow of water, and there was no trace of Su Yi. Longya stomped her feet as she recovered from a shock. She was stunned for a moment. Looking up at the experts who were already far away, Longya heaved a sigh of relief. They weren't looking for Upper Dragon Village. Looks like they came back from the Boundless Sect. They are so fast. Upper Dragon Village is safe for now. Longya frowned. Looking around and seeing that there was no trace of Su Yi, Long Ya's silver teeth twitched. She pursed her red lips, and a cold light overflowed from her eyes. Damn, Su, you little bastard. Come back to the village. I will teach you a lesson. Long Ya waved her jade-like hand, and a wave of vitality rose from beneath her feet. A spatial ripple was formed out of thin air, and it quickly flew toward the Upper Dragon Village. Don't let them find out. Nothing must happen to the people of the Upper Dragon Village. A faint voice echoed in the air. After entering the stream, Su Yi discovered that the water was so deep that he couldn't see the bottom. The water was dark and gloomy, and the air pressure was heavy. The water current was like a small hook, tearing apart Su Yi's clothes. This place was like a giant beast hibernating in the wilderness, indescribably fierce. Su Yi took a deep breath and continued to swim deeper into the water after passing through a section of turbulent shallow water. The further down he went, the more Su Yi could feel the golden dragon aura permeating the water. Amidst the chaos, Su Yi gradually closed his eyes and released his aura to capture the fleeting aura of the golden dragon expert. Amidst the turbulent undercurrents, the golden dragon's shadow circled around Su Yi's body, and the faint golden patterns on his neck and elbows gradually seeped through his clothes and wrapped around Su Yi. In the endless water current, Su Yi was like a golden bubble, floating and wandering. He tried his best to release the golden dragon's aura and felt the subtle changes in the surrounding air. The water current was like a pulling arm, pulling Su Yi deeper and deeper, and the sound was deafening. The faint dragon's aura filled the water. Suddenly, Su Yi opened his eyes and took out the dragon god's token. He saw that the sparkling and translucent golden radiance on it was even brighter. Su Yi's sword eyes flashed, and he locked onto a whirlpool-like water current deep in the southwest. He was overjoyed. It's there. Whoosh. Su Yi's figure was like a sword. He released the golden dragon's aura, and the surrounding water current opened up a path because of the domineering and majestic dragon's aura. Soon, Su Yi rushed to the entrance of the whirlpool and dived in. It was like rushing through a thin film of water. After passing through, Su Yi's clothes quickly dried up, and at the same time, he felt that the violent spatial ripples around him were smoothed out. Raising his eyebrows, he saw a huge underwater karst cave in front of him. Sweet and cold water dripped from the stalactites at the top, echoing in the air. It was cold and bleak. It seems that no one has been here for many years. Su Yi nodded and said, smelling the stench of decaying water, he carefully moved forward. Quack! Su Yi stepped on a stone, and when he lowered his head, he saw that it was a skull. Taking out a piece of vitality stone, Su Yi saw many bones along the way, and the ground was eerily white. Su Yi's heart skipped a beat. It seems like there was a huge battle here a long time ago. Chi Feihong frowned and said, from the age of the bones, it was at least a few decades old. Su Yi nodded and passed through the strange bones. After turning a corner, another strange fragrance of plants and flowers assaulted his face, emitting a strange and dazzling radiance. Dragon flame grass, dragon root, fu longzi, bloodroot spirit fluid. As far as the eye could see, patches of golden herbs fell in a small valley, and the dragon's aura was vast and mighty. Su Yi looked up and saw the water ripples above his head. Flying fishes were shuttling back and forth, and there was actually another world below. He couldn't help but click his tongue in wonder. Feeling the faint dragon's aura that permeated the void, it was powerful and domineering, and mixed with the fragrance of herbs. Su Yi's eyes lit up, and he felt refreshed. We are finally here. There is indeed the golden dragon's bloodline here. Su Yi smiled and used the Fuyao Hunter transformation steps to rush towards the center of the valley. Landing on the soft ground in the center of the valley, it was as if he was bathed in the ancient dragon's breath. Su Yi's eyes flickered, and a series of ferocious golden dragons' aura erupted. Between heaven and earth, Su Yi instantly moved, and the void trembled as if the golden dragon was reborn. Su Yi's soul and the surrounding environment merged into one. Boom! In the void, a shocked voice came out of nowhere, and the ferocious aura made people tremble for no reason. Young man, why do you have the aura of a golden dragon? Are you from the Long family? The warm valley suddenly became blazing hot, and the wind and clouds surged. An intense killing intent filled the heaven and earth. You are indeed here. Hearing the name of the Long family, Sui knew that the person in front of him must have regarded him as a member of the Long family. Immediately, the golden dragon's soul in Suyi's body shook rapidly, and the aura of his whole body burst out. Golden clouds covered his body, and the light was boundless, as if an ancient golden dragon had descended to the world. Roar! Boom! In a valley, the sound of wind and thunder was sonorous. Sui opened his arms and took out the dragon god's token, and the jade immediately shone with golden light. Behind him, a huge golden dragon's shadow rose, and the dragon's pattern was vivid and lifelike. The dragon's head was ferocious, and it was majestic and domineering. At this time, Sui was completely wrapped in golden light. His eyes were golden, and his terrifying aura looked disdainfully at the valley. Sui frowned, and the golden flames around him moved rapidly. In a small space, the space rippled continuously. Seeing the dragon god's token, kneel down. The majestic voice was like the sound of heaven, and the vigorous dragon's roar roared in the small valley. Boom! The valley trembled, and the flowers and plants swayed rapidly. A great fluctuation spread out. Chapter 2072. This is Lord Five-Clawed Golden Dragon's aura. An astonished voice sounded from afar as an extremely skinny old man flew over from the depths of the valley. The old man was as fast as lightning, and golden lines appeared in his eyes. His cultivation gave off the feeling of an absolute expert, but at the same time, he was extremely weak. Sui gradually withdrew the aura of the golden dragon as his gaze landed on the old man. His eyes were sunken, and his cheekbones were high. His shriveled body was like a bamboo pole that had been dried by the sun. Apart from the dragon's aura that seemed to have some vitality, the rest of his body was completely dry. The old man trembled and panicked. When he saw the divine dragon token in Suyi's hand, he involuntarily knelt down and greeted excitedly. This one is the sixth successor of the golden dragon's inheritance, Zhong Yunkong. Greetings, Lord Commander. Sui shook the lifelike dragon-patterned token in his hand and put it away. He smiled. This person actually knew that he was the divine dragon commander and not the divine dragon envoy. He immediately nodded. If this person was the 6th generation, then Shangwan Tianxin should be the 7th generation, and Han Wulong the 8th generation. He was the last successor of the Five-Clawed Golden Dragon's inheritance. How old are you? Sui stroked his chin as he looked at Zhong Yunkong's aged face. The wrinkles on his face were extremely deep, and he was slightly puzzled. Zhong Yunkong slowly stood up with Suyi's help. He shook his head and sighed. This one is already close to 260 years old, but I've been in Metalstone Blessed Land for a whole 160 years. Suyi's eyes trembled as he placed his hand on Zhong Yunkong's shoulder. He could feel that Zhong Yunkong's cultivation was constantly weakening. His meridians, bones, and flesh were rapidly losing their vitality. In addition, Zhong Yunkong had used a vast amount of yuan qi earlier, causing his physique to rapidly deteriorate. Why is he only at the first layer of the yuan domain realm? Sui frowned. At 260 years old, he had already broken through the limits of a human. Sheng Feng, Sheng Yun, and Duanmu Xiongtu were all geniuses who had reached the peak of the Yuan domain realm when they were 100 years old. Some of them even reached the half-step Yuan sky realm, becoming the absolute cornerstone of first-rate sect. The old man before him was an inheritor of the Golden Dragon bloodline, yet he was only at the first level of the origin domain stage. With swaying steps, Zhong Yunkong was supported by Sui to sit on a flat stone. Zhong Yunkong sighed bitterly as he looked at the lush, golden, and dazzling medicinal field before him. If it weren't for the Golden Dragon bloodline and these medicinal herbs of the Dragon Clan, I would have ceased to exist in the sky barbaric continent a long time ago. Suyi's heart quickly sank. He took a deep breath and said coldly, "Those white bones outside are the Long family's people, right?" Zhong Yinkong nodded and said in a panic, "Among the 8 generations of the Golden Dragon clan, other than the Long family, none of the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th generations have any bloodline left in the world. However, my bloodline, the Upper Dragon Village, was discovered by the Long family." Zhong Yinkong's eyes were filled with sadness and pain as he told Su Yi. In order to escape the pursuit of the Long family, Zhong Yinkong had been constantly migrating with the villagers of Upper Dragon Village for the first 100 years. Every time they arrived at a new place, they would live and reproduce for a period of time. After a fierce pursuit, the Upper Dragon Village had to move again to the mountains of the Yun Prefecture. It was here that Zhong Yinkong decided to stop running and set up the Golden Dragon restriction in the Upper Dragon Village. He reversed the meridians of all the villagers with the power of the Golden Dragon, so that the aura of the Golden Dragon would not leak out even a little bit. He would rather let the villagers of Upper Dragon Village not practice martial arts than let them wander and suffer the threat of death. After that, he led the experts of the Brahma Dragon Celestial Palace here alone and killed them all at the cost of his life. Since then, his physique had been deteriorating year by year, and his strength, which was originally a half-step Yuan Tian realm expert, had also gradually deteriorated in the 160 years. Su Yi looked at the old man in front of him who was about to collapse with a serious look. If his cultivation level regressed to the origin ancestor realm, Su Yi knew that there was not much time left for Zhong Yinkong. "I didn't expect that the protector in their hearts was their ancestor." Su Yi sighed. Looking at Zhong Yinkong's vitality that was slowly draining away, he rolled his eyes. "Now that Upper Dragon Village is in danger, Lu Qi brought people to find you yesterday. Is this the reason why you don't want to see him?" Zhong Yinkong nodded heavily, patted his thigh with his dry palm, and said bitterly, "Lu Qi's child came here before, and I taught him. But I can teach one child, but I can't teach all the children. All these years, guarding Upper Dragon Village, I have been exhausted. Now I really don't have any ability." After saying that, he burst into tears. The feeling of helplessness, of not being able to protect the love in his heart, made Su Yi empathize with him. Taking a step forward, Su Yi puffed out his chest and looked at the lush herbs in the valley. Su Yi smiled. "Fine. I will use the herbs that you personally planted to save your life. Upper Dragon Village, you protect it." "What?" Zhong Yinkong suddenly raised his bitter face. In the haze, he seemed to see a young man walking towards him in the divine light. Immediately, all the hair on his back stood up. He heard the bold words that he had not heard for more than 200 years. Upper Dragon Village. Longya was still angry when she returned to the village, but she still helped Mr. Yu rearrange the Golden Dragon restriction spell. When they knew that there were strong people looking back and forth outside, all the villagers fell into panic. The whole village entered a state of war alert. After Mr. Yu took Longya to see Lu Qi, he hurried out to arrange the war preparations. A group of children were all curled up in Lu Qi's house. They were all gloomy and desperate. Lu Qi, who was lying on the bed, kept oozing black and red blood. His joints were all purple, and he looked terminally ill. Qian, Xiaolan, and other children leaned on the edge of the bed, turned around, and asked Longya with snot and tears, "Sister Yuya, hasn't Big Brother come back yet?" Qian pouted and cried until her eyes were red and swollen. Counting with his fingers, he realized that there were less than 4 hours left before the 12 hours that Longya had mentioned. Longya was also full of worries. She didn't know how to answer the children's questions. After coming back, Longya had confirmed it with Mr. Yu indirectly. The place where Su Yi jumped was the place where Lu Qi and others were looking for. There should be no mistake. Standing beside the bed, he kept looking around the Upper Dragon Village and said softly, "Damn you, Su. Why aren't you back yet? I've already talked to you for 12 hours. How dare you be so careless?" Longya suddenly moved and hit the window with her fist. Her eyes were overflowing with flames. She was a little scared and said in surprise, "Will he be found by those two old guys?" Lanya was a little anxious. She pursed her lips and didn't dare to say anything. On second thought, the elixir that Isu gave her was so magical. He would not be caught so easily. No, no. Lanya put her fingers into her wavy blonde hair and played with it desperately. Chapter 2073. The restless Lanya looked at the helpless villagers and hoped that Isu would come back soon. Even if he did not bring back the secret of the Guardian, Lanya felt that it was okay. Lanya's long golden hair was extremely charming, and her slender waist was extremely attractive to the opposite sex. Lanya paced back and forth in the house with her left hand tightly holding her right hand. Anyone could see that Lanya, who had always been calm and proud, was so impatient that she wanted to jump up to the roof. Suddenly, she heard a shout of surprise from outside. "You're back! You're back!" In the square outside, Elder Yu's shocked voice also came into the house. He shouted loudly, "Why are you back? Is it Isu? Isu is back." Lanya opened her tender lips, and her eyes were filled with surprise. In Luchi's house, everyone stood up. Lanya's eyes were wide open, and she hurriedly looked outside the door. "Back!" Lanya looked in the direction of the voice. At this moment, a heavy muffled sound came from outside the door. Bang! Before Lanya reached the door, she saw a light blue figure rushing into the house like the wind. Lanya's footsteps paused instantly. "Father!" The young man clung to Luchi's side and shook Luchi's stiffened body emotionally. Big drops of tears flowed down his face, and he was in great pain. Suddenly, after seeing the figure clearly, Lanya's heart sank. She hugged her arms and leaned against the railing casually and sighed heavily. A pair of charming eyes glanced back and forth at the person who was clinging to the bed. The person was only 14 or 15 years old. He was only a few years older than Xiao Lei and the others, but his cultivation base had already broken through to the 4th level of the Origin Void stage. Hearing the person calling Lu Qi father, Lanya frowned slightly. However, it was also because of her that Lu Qi was not saved. Looking at the young figure, Lanya felt sorry and muttered to herself, "So it's Lu Qi's son. Isn't he in the village? How did he come back from outside?" After a long while, Lanya still chose to turn her head and cross the door. She did not want to listen to these words of farewell. This simple village could no longer withstand the wind and rain. Even the disappearance of a villager was a loss of bloodline. Leaning against the window outside the house, Lanya's fingers gently tapped on her slender thighs. She pursed her lips and sighed softly. She lowered her eyes and thought about something. At this moment, Lanya's gaze became even more anxious. The green figure at the entrance of the village had yet to appear. Lanya gritted her teeth and curled her tender lips. "Brother Little Can, you're back. Brother Can, you're finally back." In the room, when Qianqian, Xiaolan, Xiaolei, and others saw the young man coming in, their eyes were filled with tears and sadness. They followed Lu Can's gaze and stared at Drill Master Lu Qi. "Father, Kaner is back. Open your eyes and look at me." In the gatehouse, the sobbing of Lu Can and the group of children instantly infected the surrounding villagers. Some of the nearby villagers put down the weapons in their hands at the same time and sighed with sadness in their eyes. With the help of 2 villagers, Elder Yu slowly walked over with his walking stick. He stood in front of the door and shook his head helplessly, his face full of regret. "Little Can, you shouldn't have come back. You are the hope of the whole village." "Hope?" Standing aside, Lanya's gaze was slightly startled. She hesitated for a long time, but did not ask a word in the end. "Village chief, I shouldn't have come back? You want me to stand by and do nothing against Shanglong village at this critical moment?" Lu Can's face was gloomy, and he stepped out of the stone house with great sorrow. Elder Yu's face instantly became serious, and his face flushed red. He scolded, "Shanglong village sent you out so that you could preserve the only bloodline. Since the day you received the guidance of the Guardian, your life does not belong to yourself or your father. It belongs to the entire Shanglong village." Lucan stepped out of the door at once. A stubborn feeling surged in his heart. He pursed his lips and sighed. If I didn't come back, I wouldn't even be able to see my father for the last time. Grandpa Village Chief, I can't do it. After saying that, Liu Kan's eyes became gloomy and a trace of despair appeared on his determined face. He was heartbroken and kept shaking his head. His tightly closed eyes had long been choked with sobs. Everyone in the square was silent. Their lips were pressed into a straight line. A bitter atmosphere shrouded the entire Shanglong village. Today's Shanglong village would inevitably suffer a great calamity. Lu Qi's impending death only ignited the long-suppressed sadness in the hearts of the villagers. Many villagers covered their faces and wept. They didn't want to look at Lu Qi's house anymore. After a long while, Elder Yu could only straighten his back and ask Lu Qi, "Little Can, how do you know the situation in Shanglong village?" Lu Can seemed to wake up instantly. He wiped his tears, and a trace of coldness appeared in his bright eyes. He said, "Grandpa Village Chief, the Long family went to Infinity Sect." Infinity Sect? Long Ya's eyes instantly frowned. An extremely bad premonition surged in her heart. Hearing the news that the Long family also went to Infinity Sect, Elder Yu's face suddenly changed. He said, "What?" His lips trembled in disbelief. His trembling body was supported by Long Ya. Only then did Liu Can notice the existence of Long Ya. He said seriously, "Grandpa Village Chief, who is this?" Elder Yu, who was absent-minded, was still immersed in the shock just now. He glanced at Long Ya and introduced her to Liu Can. He said gratefully, "This is Miss Ya, who sent your father back. She was the one who saved your father and the children from the mouth of the brutal shadow Black Pig. By the way, there is also a benefactor of Yisu. He went outside to look for magic medicine for your father. He will be back in a moment." Narrowing his eyes, Liu Can pulled Elder Yu from Ya's hands. Immediately, the strength of the Origin Void stage burst out, shaking Elder Yu's robe. Elder Yu instantly lost his voice and said, "Little Can, what are you doing?" Long Ya's face also changed. Her cold eyes suddenly shrank. She raised her charming face and looked at this golden dragon bloodline of Infinity Sect. "Are you the one who saved my father?" Liu Can was not polite at all. Instead, he stared at Long Ya with great fear. Long Ya was angry and amused. It was not enough to meet Yisu. Now, there was Liu Can. Were they all people who were not afraid of the strong? Not bad. Do you have something to say? Long Ya frowned and asked in a low voice. The corners of Liu Can's mouth rose slightly. Instantly, a light blue long sword shot out from his hand. With the sound of the wind, a cold light cut through the air and went straight for the tip of Long Ya's tall and small nose. "I can't see your strength, but I know that you did not save my father out of kindness," Liu Can said coldly. A threatening aura was released. "Little Can, how can you say that?" Elder Yu panicked. His aged face was slightly stunned. Faced with Liu Can's threat, Long Ya did not panic. She did not reveal her aura and looked at the young man in front of her with interest. "Little Can, did you make a mistake? Miss Ya is the benefactor of our Upper Dragon Village. She went to great lengths to save your father. How can I be wrong?" Elder Yu growled. Chapter 2074. But Liu Can still shook his head stubbornly. His eyes were burning as he stared at Long Ya's aggressive face. "Village Chief, didn't you ask me why I suddenly came back?" Liu Can's eyes were like a fierce beast as he whispered. After receiving the news that the Long family was coming to Yinzhou, Master Wu Long held an emergency meeting with the Elders Guild. "I know that the Long family is now looking for bloodline traces again. If they come to Yinzhou, they might find Shanglong village. That's why I sneak back. But I want to know, my father is a famous hunter in Shanglong village. His sensitivity is amazing. Nothing happened when he went to find the Guardian, but something happened when he returned to Shanglong village. What's the reason?" Hearing this, all the villagers looked at Long Ya in unison. Yu Laozhu, holding his walking stick, looked puzzled. Liu Can's words were not without reason. Even when Liu Can went to receive the Guardian's guidance, it was Liu Qi who led him. There was not a single mistake. Liu Can snorted coldly and turned his body to one side. He moved his wrists slightly and said, "When the Long family came, you came. Now that you're waiting here, I'm afraid that Isu has gone to inform them. What? Elder Yu's eyes were filled with horror as he sucked in a breath of cold air filled with killing intent. Liu Qin's words shocked everyone. The villagers who were present felt their hair stand on end. They were stunned and couldn't recover for a long time. Was it really like what Liu Qin said? Every villager's gaze was as sharp as a knife as they stared at Longya, hoping that she could give a reasonable explanation. Indeed, how could the timing be so coincidental? Elder Yu was also silent. If what Liu Qin said was true, then going to the Guardian's place to find the Dragon Cup spirit fruit was completely a conspiracy. Thinking of this, Elder Yu shuddered. A kind of anger surged in his heart. He whispered to Longya. Little Qin said it. Miss Yu, can you explain? Explain? Longya raised her eyebrows. She looked at Liu Qin coldly and arrogantly, like a strong person looking down on the weak. Her eyes were full of disdain. The Long clan's martial artists were about to reach the boundless sect. Liu Qin had rushed back after eavesdropping on the news. He must have wanted to open the Golden Dragon restriction so that the Upper Dragon Village could prepare in advance. The Brahma Dragon Celestial Palace's plan to use the dragon race's bloodline to open the Chaos Realm's Golden Dragon secret realm was going to face a lot of resistance. Han Wulong's attitude was self-evident. He was against the Long family from the bottom of his heart. Longya knew that she had to make a trip to the immeasurable gate. Longya, who had always been unwilling to explain, suddenly had a gloomy expression on her face. Her arrogant and noble face was filled with a biting cold, killing intent as she said in a serious voice, "If I want to kill you, none of you will be able to escape." He bowed his body, changing his gentle image. The sudden murderous aura made everyone present shiver as if they were in a cold wind. In unison, all the villagers who had gathered retreated backwards. Their eyes flickered as they whispered to each other. Then they kept quiet out of fear. Liu Qin also gulped as a sneer appeared at the corner of his mouth. "Master, the elders are right. The Upper Dragon Village will definitely suffer a calamity. Yes, you can kill us now, but if you have evil intentions, none of you will be able to escape. No one will be able to escape from the immeasurable gate. Don't even think about escaping from Yinzhou." After saying that, a light blue soul crystal hung around Liu Qin's neck. Longya knew that this soul crystal was connected to Liu Qin's soul. As long as Liu Qin's life was in danger, the immeasurable gate's reinforcements would immediately arrive. The immeasurable gate dares to boast so shamelessly in such a small Yunzhou. Sure enough, saving you is not a good thing. Since that's the case, don't save me. Longya swung her long hair and tightened her grip on the golden python whip. Her face was filled with a terrifying, murderous aura. Even though she had been pampered since childhood and was doted on by her grandfather, the 4 years in the Long Ben army still gave Longya great murderous intent. Swords were drawn, and the terrifying atmosphere was on the verge of erupting. The dozens of villagers gathered together and were somewhat confused by the sudden change in the situation. Little Can, could it be a mistake? Our benefactor saved us and protected us until now. Brother Can, don't misunderstand Sister Yuya. Yes, don't blame a good person wrongly. Even if Sister Yuya knew that Shanglong village was in great danger, she didn't say that she wanted to leave. Is she really a bad person? I don't believe it. The villagers on the left and right looked embarrassed. Could such a cold and frosty woman really be the legendary villain of the Long family? The villagers' reactions also moved Longya, who was standing opposite them, slightly. The murderous intent in her heart instantly melted, but her expression remained unchanged. Longya looked as if she would fight to the death if worse came to worst. She stood on her disciple's back with her long whip in her hand, and her body emitted a strong, explosive sound. "Oh, you can't do it without me. While I'm not here, you make a mess." A clear laughter came from afar. Immediately, Longya's body trembled slightly, and a touch of joy was transmitted from between her eyebrows. She raised her cold head and looked in the direction of the sound. From the Golden Dragon restrictive spell at the entrance of the village, a mass of green light floated rapidly. The faint air ripples formed a wall of air, which was somewhat blurry. However, Long Yu knew that the person she had been waiting for had finally arrived. Isu. Long Yu's whole body stiffened. Her frown, which had been getting tighter and tighter, suddenly relaxed, and the corners of her mouth slowly raised into an indifferent smile. Brother Isu is back. Benefactor Isu. It's Benefactor Isu. He's back with the magic medicine. Young and tender voices kept coming from the inner room. Xiaolei, Qin Xian, Xiaolon, Anyo, and Xiao Ben finally saw hope and ran out in surprise. They ran past Liu Can and happily rushed to Su Yi's side. They were so close to him that it was as if Su Yi had really become their big brother. With Su Yi around, everyone could feel at ease. He could always give everyone an unparalleled sense of security and stability. Su Yi smiled slightly and stretched out his hand to intimately touch Qin Xian and Xiao Lan's heads, as if he was looking at his own little sisters. If one was here, she should feel the same way. Su Yi's heart slightly trembled. Looking around, many villagers were so excited that hot tears flowed from their eyes. Only Elder Yu suppressed the excitement in his heart and walked forward firmly. Found it? He especially emphasized the last word, looked at Su Yi, and asked tentatively. Elder Yu's turbid old eyes burst with a desire for life. If he could save Lu Qi, Su Yi would be recognized by the Guardian. Shanglong village would be saved. Nodding with a smile, Su Yi quietly shifted his gaze from Elder Yu to Long Yu and whispered, I didn't disappoint you. I rushed back at the stipulated time. In a not-so-big square, the atmosphere was dead silent, and a miserable atmosphere finally disappeared like smoke in thin air. Chapter 2075. In an instant, everyone subconsciously wiped the tears from the corners of their eyes. The long-awaited relaxation made them feel gratified. Good, good, good. Elder Yu finally burst out with an excited shout and kept hitting the ground with his cane. Elder Yu looked at the young man in front of him with a gentle smile, and his old eyes couldn't help but feel a little sore and swollen. The villagers present were so excited that they shouted excitedly. Some of them even spoke without thinking, and their eyes were filled with tears. Wait! A sharp cry burst out from Liu Can's throat. Isu's return meant that his father could be saved. Even so, Liu Can still suppressed his excitement, hiding more fear and doubt in his eyes. Long Yu snorted softly and crossed her arms. Her eyes fell on the vigilant Liu Can, and she whispered, Isu, someone doesn't appreciate it. Su Yi was startled, and then he looked at the young man in front of him with a smile. He knew that once Liu Can came back, the Infinite Sect would quickly know the situation here. You are Liu Can? Su Yi bowed, and his hands intimately pulled a few younger children. Yes, I am. Lu Qi is my father. They said you can cure my father? Su Yi looked up at the sky and estimated that there were still 2 hours left. He said faintly, 70%. What's 70%? Liu Can asked, his young face full of doubts. 60%. Su Yi looked at Liu Can with a piercing gaze, like a long sword in the dark night. He said coldly, if you delay for a moment, you will kill your father. As soon as he said this, the villagers present frowned. Liu Can gritted his teeth and said, I want to check the magic medicine you brought back. If it's not harmful, I will let you in immediately. Little Can, you are too much. Elder Yu and the villagers frowned instantly. Su Yi had worked hard to find medicine for Lu Qi in Shanglong village, and now he was being questioned like this. This was a great insult to his benefactor. Su Yi shook his head and smiled bitterly. The young man in front of him was really stubborn, and he had his own mosey. Do you know about the Dragon Cup spirit fruit? Su Yi asked with a smile. Hearing these words, Liu Can stared blankly for a moment, his eyes brimming with astonishment. Then, as if a pot had exploded, he turned to look at Elder Yu. Grandpa, how did he know where we are? Without waiting for Elder Yu's reply, Su Yi raised his head with a smile and shrugged. Since I was able to obtain it, I don't need to say what I can prove, right? You have obtained the recognition of the Lord Guardian. Liu Can's slightly immature face opened and closed his spirit eyes as he spoke coldly. Taking a deep breath, Su Yi stretched his body. Looking at the dim yellow glow of the sun in the sky, he narrowed his eyes and said, "Only 50% left." "All right." As if he had made a great decision, Lu Qi quickly stepped aside and looked at Su Yi coldly. He said, "If you can save my father, I will be grateful. If you can't save my father, I will take revenge." The corners of Su Yi's mouth curled up slightly. The young man in front of him had some of his own charm. "Is there a secret room in Shanglong village?" "Yes, yes." The villagers rushed to answer. Now, it was a race against time, so there was no need to distinguish between them. Su Yi looked around and gave orders like a master. He whispered, "Take Lu Qi to the secret room. Lu can lead the villagers to strengthen the inhibition in the village. This inhibition can be used for both offense and defense. I don't need to tell you how to use it." Hearing this, everyone's eyes were filled with astonishment. Immediately, the same thought appeared in everyone's eyes. Isu in front of them had obtained the recognition of the Lord Guardian. This was an opportunity sent by the Lord Guardian to save Shanglong village. Immediately, Elder Yu's face flushed with excitement. He shouted angrily at the crowd, "What are you waiting for? Are you waiting for death? Everyone get moving." In an instant, many people ran to their own houses. Their figures wriggled like ants moving house, and they were busy. Longya, who was standing aside, looked at Su Yi with a trace of doubt in her eyes. She did not understand what was going on. "Don't look at it. That is a unique inhibition. Each house controls an energy node." When Longya came to herself, Su Yi was already looking at her with a faint smile. She suddenly thought of the tree trunk at the lower dragon stream and felt a little nervous. "Come with me. You're the only one who can save Lu Qi," Su Yi said in a low voice. "Me?" Longya pointed at herself and looked at Su Yi with confusion. She did not understand what Su Yi meant. Could Su Yi save Lu Qi? What did it have to do with her? Before she came back to her senses, Su Yi held her arm. Suddenly, Longya felt a strong numbness flowing to her dantian, and her body suddenly became weak. Is there really only a 50% chance? Along the way, Longya glanced sideways at this unpredictable man and asked softly. Su Yi kept smiling without saying anything. Soon, Su Yi and Longya came to the underground secret room under the guidance of the village head. "Village head, Shanglong village has been in your care for 4 hours. I will return Lu Qi intact." Elder Yu nodded heavily and left with Lu Qin gratefully. After they left, a heavy muffled sound came from outside. The huge stone door fell, and a faint golden dragon might overflowed from the crack of the wall. Obviously, this was also a place that controlled the golden dragon inhibition. After everyone left, everything was quiet. Lu Qi was lying on the cold stone bed. In the strange, quiet atmosphere, Longya wanted to avoid embarrassment and was ready to check Lu Qi's injury. Bang! Su Yi raised the corner of his mouth with a strange smile. Once again, he grabbed Longya's snow-white wrist from behind, and she turned around in the air. Golden waves flashed like light. Su Yi held Longya against the wall with one hand and restrained her with the other hand. Longya was tightly pressed under his body. Her delicate body was locked by Su Yi again. Longya was shocked and angry, but she didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Her body was curled up under Su Yi's chest. She looked up at Su Yi's arm, which was not very sturdy but very firm. The sound of her heart beating could be heard in front of them. This time, Longya found that she could open her mouth and speak under the suppression of Su Yi. The closer she was to Su Yi, the more she could feel that Su Yi's breath had weakened a lot at this time, and his control over himself was not as perfect as before. Supporting himself against the wall, Su Yi's face suddenly turned pale. A sense of exhaustion spread to his cheeks, and big beads of sweat flowed out from his pores. "What's wrong with you?" Being stared at by Su Yi, Longya suddenly twisted her body unnaturally. She pressed her white teeth against her tender lips and whispered, "Don't you want to know if I can save you?" "Of course I can." Su Yi breathed a long sigh of relief. He rolled his eyes and instantly became very serious. Hearing this, Longya's slightly bent long legs instantly began to struggle. Her restrained wrist also tried to break free. She said angrily, "Then what do you mean? Why do you want me to come in?" Ignoring Long Ya's movements, Su Yi's golden eyes flashed a trace of dragon might. Long Ya's body trembled subconsciously and her whole body stiffened. Chapter 2076. An indifferent voice rang out. Su Yi's undisciplined eyes shot out coldness, incomparably powerful, and said, "But I want to know who you are. Why do you have the golden dragon bloodline? Are you from the Long family? Tell me." Su Yi's grip on Long Ya's wrist tightened as the golden dragon aura burst forth from his hand. Long Ya was in so much pain that her expression changed as she sucked in a cold breath. At this moment, Long Ya was finally sure that Su Yi also had the golden dragon bloodline. Now that he had found the guardian of Shanglong village, he had come to challenge her. He said that only she could save Lu Qi. It was obvious that he did not believe her and thought that she was from the Long family. Thinking of this, Long Ya was furious and her eyes seemed to be burning. She raised her nose and said fiercely, "Who I am has nothing to do with you. You have found the guardian. I said that I would take him away. You can't stop me." Su Yi snorted softly. With a faint smile, he leaned closer to Long Ya's face. In his starry eyes, Long Ya was as panicked as a little rabbit. Suddenly, a fragrant wind blew in his face. Su Yi's heart skipped a beat, and the figures of Duanmu Xiaoman and Lu Ruoshi immediately appeared in his mind. "Little bastard, what are you doing?" Looking at the stiff nose that was close to her face, Long Ya's face changed. Her clear eyes were full of shock and shame, and she turned her head away. Bang! Suddenly, a huge amount of soul energy poured into Long Ya's glabella, and she became absent-minded. Her consciousness froze, and when she came back to her senses, Su Yi was already walking towards the bed. Long Ya was furious, but there was nothing she could do. "I don't care who you are. Don't hurt Shanglong village. Before I save Lu Qi, you stay here," Su Yi said as he climbed onto the stone bed. I'll kill you. Little bastard. Let go of me." She furrowed her brows and looked embarrassed. She glared at Su Yi from afar, as if she wanted to skin him alive. Su Yi immediately shook his head. Healing Zhong Yunkong had already consumed too much of his soul energy. He adjusted his expression and forced himself to focus. Immediately after, he swallowed a bottle of spirit liquid. Boundless heaven and earth energy mixed with a medicinal fragrance filled the room. Lifting Lu Qi gently, Su Yi looked back at the stiff Long Ya, who was still pressed down. Su Yi leaned against the stone wall. Her golden hair was bright and enchanting. Amidst her charm, her curves were graceful and enchanting. Su Yi smiled indifferently and then restrained his smile. He quickly changed his hand seals, and a fiery red, diamond-shaped flame fruit slowly floated out of Su Yi's interspatial bag. It was bright and glistening, sparkling and translucent, as if it had just been peeled off from a tree. It shone like a mirror, strangely smooth. Su Yi raised his eyebrows, and a golden dragon aura spread out from his body. It quickly wrapped around the dragon cup's spiritual fruit, releasing a faint golden medicinal fragrance. After the medicinal fragrance was released, the fruit slices superimposed on the sparkling and translucent dragon cup's spiritual fruit were instantly burned. Boom! The whole basement suddenly became hot, and the rapidly rising high temperature rippled out a fiery red brilliance that wrapped Su Yi and Lu Qi. Long Ya's big watery eyes were wide open. The magical treatment process was witnessed by Long Ya, and she was horrified. Even if her posture was strange, no matter how uncomfortable it was not so important, because Su Yi's golden dragon aura was far superior to her own. Long Ya thought, what was the feeling of wanting to crawl in front of Su Yi? Did he also accept the inheritance of the golden dragon mystery territory? She couldn't help but swallow a mouthful of saliva and stop talking. At this time, what filled Long Ya's body was an extreme shock, and the hair on her back stood up. Shanglong Village, Outer Square. Caesaro, under the command of Elder Yu and Liu Can, the villagers who were quickly busy were actively setting up the Golden Dragon restriction. As soon as Isu came back, the state of everyone was not as desperate as before. Except for the children who were placed at home, the villagers who were able to fight were all knocking at home, injecting their little golden dragon aura into the boundary nodes of the restriction. Today's Shanglong village was full of a sense of courage and toughness. Even if they knew that Shanglong village was in great trouble, everyone's eyes were still full of determination. This was a kind of determination for life, a persistence for life, a protection for the bloodline. Everyone understood that the Guardian was still there, and Isu was the messenger sent by the Guardian. Isu would definitely lead the villagers of Shanglong village to avoid the disaster, just like the previous Guardian. The Shanglong village was indestructible. Shanglong village was not afraid of the Long family. It could withstand any storm. Standing in the middle of the square, Luke and supported Elder Yu looked around and said with some emotion, "Since Isu came back, his appearance has changed. But I'm still worried. I don't think there's such a coincidence. If I'm wrong, I'll personally apologize to the new Guardian." Liu Kan's gaze kept moving back and forth between the villagers as he said shyly. Thinking back to Su Yi's confident gaze, it really didn't seem like the behavior of someone from the Long family. As he spoke, Liu Kan's hostility towards the two outsiders lessened due to the villagers' reactions. Since these two people had already found Shanglong village, if they were really from the Long family, Shanglong village should have already ceased to exist. Isu had also received the Guardian's approval. Liu Kan and Elder Yu both believed in the Guardian's vision. Village Chief, when Father wakes up, let's have Shanglong village return to Limitless Sect to avoid danger. During the Elders' preparatory meeting, Master and the Elders discussed it. Master Wu Long received the Guardian's guidance to go to the Chaos Realm to obtain the inheritance. Limitless Sect's strength these years has a lot to do with the Golden Dragon bloodline. Limitless Sect will not forget this kindness. Limitless Sect promises to replace the Guardian and protect Shanglong. After a pause, Elder Yu's brows gradually tightened. Limitless Sect was a place that could temporarily protect Shanglong. How could he not know this? How could the Guardian not know this? His gaze was filled with reluctance, as if he had seen through everything. He laughed softly. "Child, Grandpa is old. I've lived here since I was born." Elder Yu's eyes were blurry as he leaned to the side and held Liu Kan's arm tightly. He whispered, "Little Kan, you have Shanglong village in your heart. When you knew that the Long family had come to Yinzhou, you ignored your master's orders and secretly reported back. Grandpa is very happy. However, can Limitless Sect really protect Shanglong? How long can they protect it for? Can they fall out with the Long family for Shanglong?" The three consecutive questions made Liu Kan hesitate for a while. Elder Yu laughed softly. "Little Kan, Grandpa doesn't want to run around anymore. Promise Grandpa that you'll protect Shanglong village from now on. Shanglong is home. Home is still the best." Grandpa Village Chief. Liu Kan furrowed his brows, worry appearing on his childish face. Elder Yu clearly wanted to protect the village with his life. Elder Yu patted Liu Kan's shoulder comfortingly and said kindly, "What's the matter? Wait until your father wakes up." Chapter 2077. Dark clouds covered the high mountains of the cloud region, as though they were covering the sky from all directions. The hot and humid air indicated an oppressive atmosphere. Two experts in dark purple robes with dragon embroidery were standing close to the branches as they patrolled the sky. Judging from their auras, one of them was at the 4th stage of Yuan Domain, while the other was at the 5th stage of Yuan Domain. The expert who spoke first had eyes like torches as he searched for the remaining golden dragon aura in the air like a radar. "Long one, looks like the upper dragon village isn't far away." Han Wulong pretended to be obedient when we went to the Boundless Sect this time, but he didn't expect us to invite him to open the Golden Dragon Mystery Dimension in the Chaos region on top of another important mission, which is to find the only remaining Golden Dragon bloodline, the Upper Dragon Clan. The expert called Longwen nodded and continued to search for hidden clues in the dark green mountains. He raised his eyelids and said, "Long Shan, according to the news, Grand Elder Long Kuei's granddaughter, Miss Longya, has also come to the Cloud region. Why haven't we met her yet? Longshan spoke faintly as he hovered in the air and scanned the dark green waves below with his eagle-like eyes. It's best if we don't meet her. Even if we do, she will snatch all the credit. Don't you know what kind of person Grand Elder is? Longwen laughed strangely in his wide robes. The corner of his mouth twitched as he said coldly, but Longya is a first-class beauty in the heavenly palace. In order to capture Su-yi, young Master Longsong can even give up on her. If we really meet Longya, won't we? As soon as he finished speaking, the expert gave the other expert a look and stroked his chin maliciously. Both of their eyes immediately lit up, and their small and wretched eyes were filled with vulgarity. Their filthy laughter spread far and wide in the green mountains and rivers. Yuan Qi vibrated and spread out along with the ripples in the air. Chirp, chirp. Even the birds on the branches below their feet couldn't listen anymore. They flapped their wings and flew into the distance, covering a large area of the sky. The sky was dark and gloomy. In the weird, dangerous, and depressing atmosphere, Upper Dragon Village spent more than an hour in the quicksand of time. Liu Kan and Elder Yu made the final arrangements at home. Yi Su and Yu Ya, who were treating Lu Qi, had not come out yet. Liu Kan's heart was still hanging in his throat. Standing in the middle of the plaza once more, Liu Kan and Elder Yu could see that the dark clouds in the sky were getting thicker and thicker. With the arrival of a great battle, everything seemed to be covered by a layer of obscurity. It was clearly noon, but the blazing sun had lost its splendor and was dim and lifeless. The forest was steaming, but the tips of the leaves had lost their vitality. They drooped their heads and drooped down. In the depths of the clouds, muffled thunder rumbled. The hot and stuffy atmosphere made people restless for no reason. Everyone knew that a crazy storm of Meng Lei was about to arrive. At the same time, the villagers realized that the time was finally up and walked out of their stone houses. Unlike before, the wounds in the eyes of the villagers were hidden, and the excitement and glory filled their eyebrows. The old, the weak, the women, and the young all carried weapons in their hands. They activated the aura of the golden dragon hidden in their blood and walked out with firm steps with their heads held high. Dozens of people lined up in an orderly manner and stood behind Liu Kan and Elder Yu with their backs straight. Elder Yu, we're here. A rough man led two people behind him and finally arrived. His face was as calm as water, and he walked like a shooting star. Like a god of war, he bent down his broad body and bowed respectfully to the village chief. Then, the man turned around and looked at his wife and an old but capable woman behind him. His face was full of pride and pride. Elder Yu, the four members of the Nyo family, except for Anyo, my wife, and my mother are all here. They're all here. The neat and loud voice resounded through the sky. The sound waves rolled out, mixed with Yuan Qi energy, and directly stirred up the dust on the ground. It was just a short number, but it was powerful and resonant. It was like an army's command, steady as a rock and inspiring. It was like a bugle call to charge, causing the group of people behind to be covered in fiery energy. Every villager's face was full of righteous indignation and strength. Hearing the loud voice, Elder Yu, who had been staring at the changes at the village entrance, trembled as if he had been electrocuted. He wriggled his body and slowly turned his head, shocked by the formation in front of him. Elder Yu stared at the familiar faces around him. They were full of life and showed no signs of fear. Elder Yu pulled himself out of his shock and revealed a familiar, benevolent smile. No one would have thought that at the critical moment of Upper Dragon Village, not only the strong men, but also the elderly and women, fearless and unafraid of death. Elder Yu was so excited that he gripped the walking stick in his hand even tighter. He said in a low voice, "Debeo, you all this is Sai." Elder Yu's dry lips trembled and his voice choked in his throat. He then shook his head and sighed, full of reluctance. Ha ha! The leading villagers looked at each other and laughed heartily. One after another, regardless of age, they all bowed solemnly to Elder Yu. Nyodabeo stepped forward and brushed his dirty and messy short hair. His gaze moved from Liu Kan to Elder Yu and said respectfully, "Elder Yu, Protecting Upper Dragon Village is also our responsibility. We were born here and grew up here, so we should protect it with our lives. Yes. The villagers present clenched their fists and nodded, their eyes filled with passion and pride. The 4 members of the Liu family, except for Xiao Ben, are all here. The 3 members of the Chun family, except for Xiao Lei, are all here. The 2 members of the Liu family, except for Xiao Fei, are here to protect the village. The 5 members of the Wang family, except for Lan Lan, are here to fight with their lives. The reports of the personnel rose and fell one after another. Like a wave of sound, the golden dragon aura lit up everyone's body. Faster. New LY is the fastest. Upper KWY0 suddenly, the golden light flashed. Their eyes were filled with passion and pride. The light of a spark could set a prairie ablaze. The faint golden dragon aura gathered at one point, and the ferocious roar of a dragon exploded. The surrounding space was impacted, and the energy ripples quickly drifted into the distance. In the other corner, a deep voice was deafening. A rather vigorous woman in the prime of her life shouted at the top of her lungs. Chan-Chan's mother, will also participate in protecting Upper Dragon Village. After the reports, one after another, the eyes of every villager began to turn red. However, the simple and honest smile on his face had never faltered. All of the villagers present looked at Elder Yu and Liu Qin with bright eyes. Elder Yu. Liu Qin pursed his lips. He could no longer suppress the excitement and passion in his heart as he looked at Elder Yu. Bam! It was as if everyone had agreed to participate in the battle. Liu Qin finally vented the depression in his heart. His eyes widened as he looked at the villagers around him and pointed his fist at the sky. Chapter 2078. Roar! The dragon will not die. The villagers shouted in unison, their voices shaking the sky. Immediately, the golden light on the villagers became dazzling. Countless spots of light converged to form a golden dragon silhouette, occupying the central square in the form of a long strip. The silhouette was filled with an indescribable aura that shot into the sky. In the dusky sky, the golden light was vast and surging like divine chains, magnificent and shocking. The scattered golden light was the villagers' love for Shanglong Village, the convergence of their life force. The villagers raised their proud heads at the same time, looking at the golden dragon restriction above their heads like an upside-down bowl, and smiled sincerely. This was their Shanglong Village, the Shanglong Village forever, the home that they would protect with their lives. Bang! Suddenly, a large gust of gloomy wind blew into the square, and an extremely dangerous aura tore apart the fiery atmosphere. Bang, bang! The ground shook rapidly, and from the center of the square, countless deep gullies spread out like a spider web, frightening the soul. The villagers quickly released their origin void stage cultivation and supported each other, trying their best to maintain their balance as they vigilantly looked at the village entrance, where the energy was the strongest. At this moment, 2 small black shadows were expanding at the village entrance like crows spreading their wings, approaching the village at an unbelievable speed. They're here. Elder Yu's expression quickly became serious, and he quickly tightened his grip on the walking stick in his hand. As soon as he finished speaking, Elder Yu's 8th level void stage cultivation quickly spread out, and his stooped body suddenly straightened. A cold light flashed in his narrowed eyes, and Elder Yu shouted angrily, "Everyone, get ready! Defend against the dragon thieves!" Yes. Immediately, an endless golden dragon's aura spread out from everyone, and an unbelievable energy gathered in the air. Everyone listened to the order and quickly lined up. The surrounding villagers held each other's hands, and in less than half a breath's time, they formed a semicircle around the village entrance. The small and exquisite Shanglong village was wrapped in a sea of golden dragon's aura, and the incomparably fierce roar of the golden dragon resounded through the heavens and earth. Heaven and earth roared, and the ground collapsed. Little Can, Elder Yu shouted to the side. Elder Yu gave Liu Kan a look, and Liu Kan nodded in understanding. The two's footsteps changed, and their movements were like lightning. Bang bang. Golden light suddenly appeared under their feet as they adjusted their positions and stood at the head of the semicircle formation like the eye of the formation. It was like adding the finishing touch. Once they were all assembled, golden radiance surged. The golden dragon formation, formed by the dozens of people, surged with an intense aura. Pure golden dragon aura gushed out incessantly, and the spatial energy of the entire Upper Dragon Village expanded to the extreme. Standing at the very front, Elder Yu sensed the aura of the newcomer. Soon after, his gaze turned solemn as he loudly shouted, "Old fellow, come out!" Bang! Immediately, the old and worn-out walking stick exploded due to the vigorous elemental energy. Elder Yu responded and pulled out a long sword forged from gold. Golden light flashed, and the tip of the sword was intimidating. Sword rays danced in the air as they tore through space and emitted a humming sound. Elder Yu shouted, "The Golden Dragon Guardian formation can be used for both offense and defense. At most, it can defend against attacks below the 3rd level of the Origin Domain stage. The person who has come is much stronger than the Origin Ancestor Realm. It seems like today will be a tough battle." The gazes of Liu Kan and the rest of the villagers flickered. Their calm faces were instantly filled with boundless fighting spirit. They shouted in unison, "Fight! Villagers of Upper Dragon Village, are you afraid?" Liu Kan's blood was boiling as well, and his eyes were bloodshot. "Not afraid," everyone shouted. The farming tools and weapons in their hands were also imbued with the golden dragon aura. They were ready for battle, and their golden eyes were filled with a fiery fighting spirit. In an instant, the Golden Dragon Guardian formation seemed to have exploded, and the dense radiance continued to expand. A look at the original G chapter above +0 rumble. Auras surged wildly as the two black figures that were flying over paused in midair. Shortly after, they sped up and quickly arrived in front of them. Ha ha ha! Stepping through the void, two men in dark purple robes with dragon patterns landed at the entrance of the village. They maintained a distance of several feet from the Golden Dragon Guardian formation. When they saw so many golden dragon bloodlines, they could not help but laugh wildly. Who would have thought? The Forsaken Dragon clan that has escaped for 100 years is really here. The Dragon God is protecting us. The expert called Long Wind's long and narrow eyes surged with a trace of coldness as he roared at the sky. He was extremely pleased with himself. The 5th level Origin Domain stage Longshan had his hands behind his back. His gaze was cold and arrogant as he looked at the villagers below with a sneer and said indifferently, "Do you want us to attack or surrender yourselves?" His words were sharp, and his attitude was filled with the Nirvana Dragon Palace's disdain and cold-bloodedness toward other golden dragon bloodlines. Hearing this, a dark blue longsword appeared in Liu Kan's hand. The corner of his mouth twitched as he roared, "Long family bastard, don't go too far." Do you think Upper Dragon Village will surrender after more than 200 years of grudges? Narrowing their eyes, Long One and Long Shan looked at each other, shook their heads, and laughed. Their pitiful gazes fell on this group of weaklings. "Idiot!" Rolling his eyes, Long Shan snorted lightly. His indifferent gaze was filled with disdain. "Brat who doesn't care about his life. I gave you a way out. Right, where's Zhong Yunkong? Didn't that guy protect you for 200 years? Tell him to get out here." Long One ridiculed. "Impudent." Elder Yu looked up at the sky. An array of golden light shot out from the longsword in his hand. He reprimanded loudly, "How dare you mention the Lord Guardian's name?" Bang! From the bottom to the top, the furious Elder Yu flew into the air. Immediately after, everyone released their Origin Void stage strength. Their vitality condensed and connected with heaven and earth. Above the sky, dozens of people revealed a fierce glint in their eyes. They were fearless. Elder Yu didn't say anything else. He held the golden, long sword horizontally in his right hand, and his left index and middle finger slid from the middle of the sword to the tip. Blood-red, killing intent shot out from his eyes. Whoosh! Immediately, a bright blood-red line floated out from his fingers. Golden light spread out, and wind and thunder were awe-inspiring. Elder Yu's body trembled in the violent golden wind. He shouted at the crowd, "Upper Dragon Village, help me break through the enemy. Kill!" The villagers all spread out their arms, and their bodies were covered in a faint golden dragon color. In the midst of the madness, the eyes of Elder Yu, who was at the front of the formation, flickered. His body moved like lightning, and he jumped out of the dragon eye position. Swish! Suddenly, Elder Yu's aura rose rapidly. His limbs, bones, flesh, and blood rapidly exploded. A faint golden light film perfectly covered Elder Yu, and at the same time, his aura rose sharply. 9th level of the Origin Void stage. 1st level of the Origin Monarch stage. Crackling sounds came from their bodies, and everyone's eyes were filled with tears. Elder Yu was overdrawing his life to support the last glory of Upper Dragon Village. 3rd level of the Origin Domain stage. His cultivation aura stopped abruptly at this moment, and an endless golden dragon aura lingered around Elder Yu's body. His torn clothes turned into ashes and dissipated. The veins on his swollen muscles were like hornless dragons and snakes, and it was shocking. Chapter 2079. Roar! Suddenly, everyone felt a pain in their heads as an extremely terrifying soul pressure swept out from Elder Yu's body. The golden longsword in Elder Yu's hand was already suffused with vivid and lifelike dragon patterns. Golden Sword of Annihilation. Go! Elder Yu's cold gaze danced like flames. As the cold shout fell, an astonishingly huge golden dragon bolt flew out from the sword light. It was like the brilliance of a star that fluctuated in the void. It swept through everything in its path and blasted toward Long One and Long Shan with unstoppable force. Bang, bang, bang. Above the void, where the sword passed, the vast spatial ripples immediately shattered into pieces. Elder Yu used all his strength to slash through the void and split open the Long family's turbidity. Rumble! Long One and Long Shan waited in place. Seeing the soaring golden light slashing towards them, their pupils shrank for a moment before returning to normal. Then, a trace of ridicule appeared in the depths of their cold, pitch-black pupils. You're only at the 3rd stage of the Origin Domain realm. Go ahead. Long Shan crossed his arms and raised his gaze, indicating for Long when to deal with it alone. Then, Long Shan's figure suddenly swayed. A vast and mighty energy wind rushed out from his deep purple robe with dragon patterns. He lightly tapped the void, and circles of energy ripples appeared around him. The sound of the wind breaking stopped. When they looked at Long Shan again, he had already appeared in the void 100 meters above them. High up in the sky, Long Shan's face was gloomy. His gaze fell on the faces of every villager as a sneer hung on the corner of his mouth. His killing intent was awe-inspiring as he coldly said, "Leave one alive and bring him back. The rest die." TD Latest Chapter. Section 1. Page 80. A cold light shot out from Long Shan's eyes. His resentful voice floated back and forth in the air, binding all the villagers present like soul-hooking chains. Immediately, the surrounding villagers felt a chill in their hearts. The hairs on their backs stood on end as their souls throbbed with unease. On the opposite side, seeing Elder Yu's swift and violent golden sword attack, not only was Longwen not worried, he even had a sinister smile on his face. He seemed to enjoy this kind of desperate attack from a weakling. Longwen narrowed his eyes and smirked. He crossed his left hand over his right hand, twisting his wrist while twisting his neck. Immediately, a vast dragon's might swept out like a vortex. The corners of Longwen's mouth suddenly widened, revealing his fang-like teeth as he licked his dry lips with a wicked smile. A thick palm slowly extended from his sleeve, and a ferocious golden dragon shadow appeared behind him, whistling through the air. Since that's the case, Then all of you can go and die. Longwind's palms flashed with yuan qi, and he crossed his palms in the air and changed into a posture. Then he pushed outward, and a golden dragon light shield covered in divine light appeared in front of Longwind. Suddenly, golden light, wind, and thunder rippled through heaven and earth. The golden dragon on the shield was like a living creature with its mouth wide open. Crimson rays of light shot out continuously from within, and a deafening dragon roar sounded as if it could devour the souls of all living creatures at any time. Bang! The moment the shield was erected, Elder Yu's sword wave arrived as well. The ferocious golden light brazenly struck the golden dragon shield, and a sharp and desolate sonic boom sounded like a bomb hitting heaven and earth. Strong winds instantly engulfed heaven and earth. At the same time, the violent shock waves forced Longwind to dodge and retreat rapidly. After stabilizing himself, Longwind's lips curled up in disdain, and a cold, blade-like aura leaked out. Golden Dragon Break! Devour! Longwind shouted. His 5 fingers shook, and his dark purple robe fluttered quickly. Roar! Golden light appeared on the shield, and the cold aura of the golden dragon once again soared into the sky. The ferocious golden dragon instantly broke through the shield and roared. Its huge mouth was like a magnet that devoured the sword wave completely. What? Elder Yu's expression changed greatly after his attack. He trembled, and his eyes were filled with disbelief. This move was the strongest sword move that he had created by combining the strength of the villagers with the Golden Dragon Protection Formation. How could it be so easily blocked by Longwind? Impossible! Before he could recover from his shock, Elder Yu suddenly felt a kind of crushing soul energy rush toward him. The aura of the explosion swept through heaven and earth. In the distance, Longwind had unknowingly lifted up a golden ball of light. Ignorant ants, this is the difference between bloodline and strength. In your next life, reincarnate well and don't have the golden dragon bloodline. Longwind's eyes contained a piercing cold light. He coldly admired the panicked expressions of the upper dragon villagers, adding to their ferocity. Clang! Clang! As soon as he finished speaking, the golden ball of light in front of Longwind's chest came crashing down like a cannonball. Halfway through, the golden ball of light split, and a stretched golden dragon scales opened and flashed with a fierce light. Golden dragon claws covered the sky and pounced toward Elder Yu and the villagers of Upper Dragon Village. The dragon's roar was deafening, and the sound of the heavens resounded, reverberating in the hearts of the villagers. It was like 1,000 thunderous birds that would never die. When the villagers saw this, they sucked in a breath of cold air. Even though they were already terrified in their hearts, they were still calm and fearless on the surface. Killing intent filled the air, and anger surged. At this time, Elder Yu had also returned to the front of the Golden Tower. He stood in the dragon eye position, and only endless cold light flashed in his turbid eyes. This time, the fierce and hot aura of the golden dragon around Elder Yu rose to the extreme. He took a deep breath of the cold air and shouted angrily, "Villagers of Upper Dragon Village, are you afraid?" There was a faint coldness in his eyes. Everyone could hear that Elder Yu's angry roar was filled with grief. This was his last stand. This was the last defense of Upper Dragon Village. No, at this time, the villagers had already disregarded life and death. The killing intent in their eyes flickered fiercely, and the fierce aura intertwined with the chaotic ripples in the air. No matter how their chests rose and fell, no matter how difficult it was to breathe, the villagers all straightened their backs, and their faces were cold and resolute. They were all sharp and proud, and their expressions were unafraid of death. Form a formation. Protect the village. Elder Yu commanded. Immediately, everyone's blood boiled. Standing in front of them, Longwind frowned slightly and let out a soft sound of surprise. His eyes were like poisonous snakes as he waited for the villagers of Upper Dragon Village to make their last stand. If they could hold, Upper Dragon break. If they couldn't, Upper Dragon die. Boom! In midair, the head and tail of the semicircular golden dragon formation quickly connected, and the storm of air quickly shattered the ripples in the air. At the same time, Elder Yu and Lu Kan quickly flashed to the center of the formation and held their long swords horizontally in front of them. Golden Dragon Holy Transformation. Elder Yu and Lu Kan shouted at the same time. Huh! The dozens of villagers took the opportunity to hold their weapons horizontally in front of them, their expressions cold and resolute. The fiercely expanding aura of the golden dragon instantly surrounded them. The huge circular golden light and the golden dragon collided in an instant. The ferocious golden dragon broke through the air and stabbed into the golden dragon formation like an awl. Boom! Golden waves rose and fell, and the wind and thunder clashed. Chapter 2080. Elder Yu and Lu Kan's faces were as pale as paper as the golden dragon aura fluctuated endlessly in the air. In the blink of an eye, the terrifying collision between two Yuan domains exploded on the small upper dragon village. Concentric circles of shock waves exploded on the spot, along with the radiance of the divine chains. From afar, it looked like a small volcano had set off endless thunderstorms. Due to their prominent positions, Elder Yu and Lu Kan suffered the greatest impact. Bloody wounds appeared all over their bodies due to the huge energy storm. Some of the wounds even revealed eerie white bones. It was a ghastly sight. In an instant, it was like a domino had collapsed. Every villager in the Golden Dragon Formation suffered injuries of varying degrees, and the energy of the formation also began to weaken correspondingly. Hold on, hold on. Elder Yu and Lu Kan still clench their teeth, their eyes bloodshot. They were completely fearless. Don't give up. We won't give up. The eyes of the Niu family, Qianqian's mother, and the rest of the villagers twitched at the same time as they used all their strength to resist this final attack. Fools! Longwen snorted coldly. Evil golden patterns surged out of his sharp, icy eyes once again. Compared to the villagers, Longwen's injuries were completely negligible due to his 4th-level Yuan domain cultivation. Bang! Retracting his pitiful gaze, Longwen's broad palm once again shot out a ferocious golden dragon bolt. Both of his palms stretched out horizontally like a primordial golden dragon descending into the world. All of the power stacked on top of the withered and broken golden dragon formation. The sudden surge of energy surged like a mountain. Astonished gazes swept across every villager's face, and paint wounds flashed across their faces. There was only one thought in the villagers' minds. As expected, we still can't hold on. In the end, the golden dragon formation exploded brilliantly in the air. Terrifying sonic booms surged out of dozens of villagers' bodies as they rapidly dispersed in the air. Rustle! Dozens of terrifying collisions rang out. The villagers of Upper Dragon Village fell from the sky like birds with broken wings. In the distorted space, dozens of figures smashed into the central square like sandbags. Strong winds blew in the surroundings. The dissipating golden dragon's aura was ear-piercing and sinister, as if heralding the destruction of Upper Dragon Village. Phew! Long One, who was blasted back by the impact, took a deep breath. His figure finally stopped in the aftershock. His expression was ghastly as he smacked his lips and muttered to himself. A bunch of smelly bugs, they're quite troublesome. The corners of Long Wen's mouth twitched imperceptibly. Inside his sleeves, Long Wen's right hand was twitching. Shock and astonishment flashed across Long Wen's eyes. At this moment, he finally understood why this group of golden dragon descendants, who were only at the origin void stage, could survive in the world for so long. The defensive formation of the pliant dragon lived up to its reputation. Even if he was alone, he would not be able to break through it without using his ultimate skill. He raised his head and looked at Long Shan in the sky. Then, the two of them looked at each other. They were like evil gods descending on the central plaza. O&M looked straight. Edition E, Chapter, Section Supra W0. In the square, painful groans resounded unceasingly. Long One and Long Shan's gloomy and cold gazes were fixed on the villagers in the deep pit, narrowing their eyes. The shock in their eyes was still hard to conceal. After suffering such severe injuries, most of the villagers of Upper Dragon, who were at the nascent Void Realm, had fainted due to their powerful Golden Dragon bloodline. Such excellent Golden Dragon bloodline was rare in the world. In the distance, Elderyu struggled to get up. Anger and fury made him spit out a mouthful of dark red blood mist. His face twitched as he said coldly, "If you want to kill us, then kill us. The Pliant Dragon Village will never yield." Long One and Long Shan's eyes twitched. The killing intent hidden deep in their eyes shot out. They said coldly, "A bunch of bugs. It's not a pity to kill them. As long as Zhong Yinkong is there, I can consider sparing you." Zhong Yinkong was the 6th generation of the Golden Dragon. He was the true core of the Pliant Dragon branch. Dracona's plan was to find Han Wulong and Zhong Yinkong and gather the power of the 3 bloodlines to open the Golden Dragon Mystery Realm and obtain the power of the Golden Dragon again. Although the villagers in front of him had a more orthodox bloodline than Long One and Long Shan, they were still useless. Hearing this, the villagers who were still conscious felt their hearts tighten. The dangerous atmosphere became tense again. Elderyu wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. He used his hand to support himself with the golden sword and said coldly, "You want us to tell you where the Guardian is? Don't even think about it. If you want to kill us, then kill us. Don't talk nonsense. There are no cowards in the Pliant Dragon Village." At this time, a burly man stood up from behind Elderyu. His eyes were burning. It was Anyo's father, Nyo Debeo. He said with a trembling body, "Yes, you bastards, don't even think about finding the Guardian." Long Shan raised his eyebrows and sneered at Nyo Debeo. Suddenly, his killing intent surged. When Elderyu's gaze changed, Long Shan's figure had already rushed out without warning, and a golden shadow of a fist smashed out violently in the air. Bang! Thunder rumbled. Long Shan's figure flew back in the air. Nyo Debeo had already crashed into the stone house like a missile. Broken stones exploded and dust flew. Like a bomb, the stone house turned into dust in an instant. "Debeo! Brother Debeo!" Before anyone could react, the 2 figures had already staggered towards the ruined stone house, followed by sorrowful cries that resounded in all directions. Elderyu and the others who had regained their senses stared fiercely at Long Shan. Their eyes were like spitting fire. Long Shan acted as if nothing had happened. He clapped his hands, his cold mouth full of contempt. His gaze turned from the ruins to Elderyu. He snorted coldly, "If I don't tell you to speak, you can't speak. If I tell you to speak, you must speak. Speak. I'll ask you one last time. Where is Zhong Yinkong?" "You." Behind him, mournful cries lingered. Elderyu's eyes were as red as blood. He bit his lips, his killing intent incomparably strong. Looking at Elderyu's determined expression, Longwen shrugged helplessly. He walked to the side of a villager and laughed strangely. Liu Kan, who was nearby, was slightly moved. So Longwen was aiming at Qianqian's mother. "What are you doing? Bullying a woman and child. What kind of ability is that?" Liu Kan's blood-stained face was stuck to the ground. His right hand was clenched into a fist as he slammed it fiercely. Hearing this, Longwen faintly turned his head. The corners of his mouth twitched as he sized up Liu Kan, whose aura was obviously stronger, with a bright smile, and said, "Then how about I bully you?" After he finished speaking, the corners of Longwen's mouth slowly rose into a satisfied arc. A trace of extremely strong, killing intent surged between his brows. Longwen's intention made Elderyu's eyes burn with passion again. He shouted loudly, "Little Kan, don't kill the child. Bastard." When Longwen's whip leg swept over Liu Kan's head, everyone's eyes widened. The pressure of a powerhouse coming over enveloped everyone's hearts. Elderyu's face was already ferocious and ashen. "No, don't kill Liu Kan." Chapter 2081. Elderyu's wrinkled face flushed red. His helpless grief had been completely replaced by resentment and anger. "You've gone too far." Elder Yu was furious. His voice filled with grief and indignation resounded throughout the entire place. This kind of grievance and begging for mercy ignited the killing intent in Long Wen's heart. A cruel and wild laughter rolled violently in his throat. All the sober people's eyes were already lifeless. Tears rolled down their cheeks. Unable to help, they could only choose to close their eyes to avoid the pain. Suddenly, amidst the screams and angry shouts, a violent explosion rang out. Everyone who had closed their eyes felt a kind of domineering aura of a dragon hidden in the abyss rapidly spread throughout the world. When everyone opened their eyes, Long Wen and Long Shan had already retreated to 100 meters away. The scene in front of them made everyone's eyes twitch fiercely. Their heartbeats also began to accelerate. In the whistling golden storm, an old man supported Liu Can and slowly put him down. Everyone's gaze was as if they had been electrocuted. The entire place was filled with shock. In the next second, everyone felt a kind of vast and mighty aura of a golden dragon. The light in their eyes fluctuated again. Everyone who was in disbelief immediately screamed and shouted. They were so excited that tears flowed down their faces. They pursed their lips tightly and nodded continuously. "Grandpa Guardian, you're finally here." Lucan lay on the ground. His breathing was weak, and an innocent smile appeared on his face. The person who came intimately caressed Liu Can's face. His deep eyes were like two endless abysses as he spoke gently. "Sleep for a while first. Leave the rest to Grandpa." After he finished speaking, the person lowered his hands. A storm of aura that seemed to cross the heavens and the earth erupted from his body. The souls present could not help but tremble. Turning around, the person's eyes secretly surged with a cold light. After he slowly swept his gaze across the miserable scene, the soles of his feet heavily stepped on the shattered ground. Dust rose along with the air wave as he spoke sternly. "Zhong Yinkong is here. Who dares to bully Upper Dragon?" Long Wen and Long Shan's eyes shrank at the same time. They could not contain their excitement as they spoke in strange voices. "Zhong Yinkong, you're finally willing to come out." Zhong Yinkong's figure changed, and he instantly rushed to Elder Yu's side. After his strength dissipated, Elder Yu's body went limp. However, his eyes were still filled with shock and excitement. "Lord Guardian, I forgot my voice. I never thought that I would be able to see you again." Smiling faintly, Zhong Yinkong patted Elder Yu's shoulder heavily and sighed with a hint of bitterness. "I forgot to speak. I'm late." Elder Yu hurriedly shook his head, his hands trembling uncontrollably as he gripped his golden longsword. His shoulders trembled slightly as large droplets of tears streamed down his face. "Forget your voice. Fortunately, I didn't disappoint you. The Upper Dragon Village didn't disgrace you." As he spoke, he was about to kneel down in front of Zhong Yinkong. Zhong Yinkong hurriedly helped Old Man Yu to his feet. A mysterious palm seal appeared in his hand, and the majestic aura of the golden dragon surged into Yu Wangxing's heavenly origin meridian. "You've exceeded the limit of the golden dragon guardian array's energy. Don't speak for now. Breathe properly. Leave Shanglong Village to me." Elder Yu solemnly nodded his head. The gaze he used to look at Zhong Yinkong seemed to contain a piercing electric light. Standing up, Zhong Yinkong faced Long Wen and Long Shan, and his entire body burst out with a vast dragon aura that was as vast as the universe. "Today, both of you will die." Zhong Yinkong's gaze fell on the two of them. The fierce pressure caused their hearts to tremble. 5th level of the Origin Domain stage. Long Wen's gaze slightly raised, and a trace of doubt flashed across his eyes. Rumor had it that Zhong Yinkong's strength had already reached the half-step Origin Sky stage 100 years ago. How could he only be at the 5th level of the Origin Domain stage? After prying into Zhong Yinkong's strength, even though his momentum was shocking, Long Shan's gaze relaxed without leaving a trace. He wiped away the cold sweat in his heart and laughed dryly. "Zhong Yinkong, with your current strength, do you think we'll still be afraid of you?" If you're sensible, you'd better obediently return with us to see Lord Dragon God. Changing the topic, the corners of Zhong Yunkong's mouth revealed a cold and gloomy expression. He shot his gaze towards the village chief's stone house, and an even more shocking golden dragon aura rushed into heaven and earth. Immediately, a large expanse of spatial divine chains interweaved above his head, and the endless golden dragon energy of the villagers was mobilized as if it was being pulled. What? Long One and Long Shan were stunned, as if they had seen the most inconceivable thing. They muttered in a low voice, "How could it be so majestic? Could there be other golden dragon bloodlines here?" Even Elder Yu, Liu Can, and the sober villagers were shocked by the golden dragon light that pierced through the heavens. They couldn't help but hold their breaths as they stared at the top of the stone house with wide eyes. This was the true golden dragon bloodline, and it was definitely the suppression of the bloodline. Looking at the D version's Chapter C section, V0R, Roar, the aura gradually turned into a blazing golden dragon phantom, which was completely revealed and suffused with light. Then, it let out a roar that pierced through the clouds and the sky, shocking the vast sky. When the roar fell, the dazzling golden light converged into two figures. Zhong Yunkong's body trembled as he flew towards the light shadow. Recovered. The light shadow's hearty and clear voice slowly sounded. The golden light shadow gradually dissipated, and everyone was stunned when they saw who it was. The newcomers were none other than Yi Su and Lu Qi, who had just recovered from serious illness. Subordinate Zhong Yunkong greets Lord Commander. Zhong Yunkong bowed respectfully to Su Yi, who was shrouded in divine radiance. What? The guardian deity was so respectful to Yi Su? Didn't Yi Su accept the guardian deity's recognition? Why was the guardian deity so polite to him? And the guardian deity even called Yi Su Lord Commander? What the hell was going on? Countless thoughts flew through the minds of Elder Yu and Liu Can. Everyone present felt the majestic aura of Su Yi, and their souls began to tremble uncontrollably. As the light shadow completely disappeared, Su Yi's dark eyes flashed with a faint coldness, and he glanced at Zhong Yunkong and said, "Are they from the Long family?" Zhong Yunkong nodded solemnly, and his face was ashen. A powerful momentum surged out, and he said coldly, "We almost didn't make it in time, and almost caused a disaster. Please forgive us, Commander." Elder Yu, Canar. As soon as Lu Qi came out of the stone house, he saw the change in Shanglong village. He staggered to Elder Yu and Liu Can, crying bitterly and heartbroken. Is he really cured? Elder Yu was still in a daze, and his eyes were full of boiling heat. Lu Qi tightly pursed his lips and nodded with tears. He turned back and looked at Su Yi gratefully. His eyes gradually became sore, and he lowered his voice and said, "Yi Su has the real blood of the golden dragon. It's the opportunity of Shanglong. Shanglong will prosper." "What?" Lucan exclaimed. Judging from Zhong Yunkong's attitude toward Su Yi, the two immediately understood everything. Elder Yu and Liu Can, who were slowly retreating, trembled, and were shocked and frightened beyond words. The villagers present stared at Su Yi as if they were looking at a god, and gradually felt relieved. They knew that this time, Shanglong would be safe. Chapter 2082. On the other hand, Long One, Long Shan, and even Zhong Yunkong treated the mysterious Su Yi with great respect, not daring to overstep their boundaries. Their hearts gradually sank. Not to mention that Zhong Yunkong used to be a half-step Yuan Tian stage super expert. Even a top-notch Yuan domain stage expert would never bow down to a Yuan emperor stage expert. Immediately after, this mysterious youth of unknown origin emitted a strange aura, causing the hearts of the two Long family experts to thump. Their hearts also rose to their throats. The air was filled with a strong, dangerous aura. The four of them looked at each other. With a faint smile, Su Yi's aura stabilized. His gaze was as calm as water, and the golden dragon radiance spreading out from his body rippled. It was much more vigorous than the two Long family experts. Ignoring the gazes of the two Long family elders, Su-Yi flashed to Elder Yu's side with his back facing Long One and Long Shan. He poured a small portion of the spirit liquid into Elder Yu's mouth. Hand seals formed in his sleeves at lightning speed as he secretly activated the primordial dragon's breath, causing the majestic spirit liquid energy to rapidly soften. The entire process took only 5 breaths of time. Immediately, the medicinal fragrance permeated his shattered meridians. Elder Yu immediately felt a vigorous and nourishing warm current rapidly combining with the golden dragon aura in his body. His shattered and bloody body gradually glowed, and the turbid aura was also slowly expelled along with the rippling medicinal fragrance. Elder Yu raised his old eyes, and his eyes were filled with emotion. He was unable to suppress the breathing and excitement in his heart as he sized up this youth whose temperament had completely changed. All the villagers' gazes were focused on this handsome and outstanding youth. Y positive J. Version Z. First round I0 after Elder Yu began to recover. Su-Yi chuckled and stood up. His green robe fluttered behind him, and his aura surged endlessly. Wind and thunder rumbled, and the surrounding air seemed to have frozen. Coldly glancing at Long One and Long Shan, Su-Yi's great void divine sea rumbled endlessly, and the violently expanding golden dragon origin chi continuously surged out from his palms. As he narrowed his eyes, he noticed that one of them was a 4th-level origin domain stage expert, while the other was a 5th-level origin domain stage expert. He calculated in his heart, if they really fought, it would be difficult for him and Zhong Yunkong to deal with them alone. However, if they went all out, it wouldn't be difficult. On the contrary, in the face of such a boundless golden dragon aura, Long One and Long Shan's soul energies were in different degrees of disorder. The same thought flashed through their minds. If they could not finish off this strange young man quickly, the Dragon Ascension expedition would be in chaos. After that, they looked at each other. Long One and Long Shan's faces were ashen as they calmly suppressed the shock in their hearts. Long Shan's eyes were sinister. He took a step forward and said, "Brat, who are you? Why does he have a golden dragon bloodline?" The gloomy and cold words instantly broke the silence. Su-Yi's undisciplined gaze immediately shot out a trace of coldness. At this time, Long Ya's words echoed in his mind. Su-Yi smiled and said, "The dead have no right to know my name." Say that again. Long Shan didn't want the person in front of him to be so arrogant and aloof. His eyes instantly turned cold as he asked again. Su-Yi shook his head and turned his head to spy on Zhong Yunkong's cultivation. He said in an extremely calm voice, "You have only recovered less than a quarter of your cultivation, but it is enough to deal with him. You choose first." Zhong Yunkong accepted the order and raised his eyebrows. He looked at C.I. Mei, and a cold light shot out from his eyes. A golden staff appeared in his hand. "My lord, I choose that 5th stage Yuan domain stage guy." After saying that, golden lines shot out from Zhong Yunkong's eyes. A roaring golden dragon spread out from the top of the golden staff. In an instant, the space in front of him expanded. "Okay, leave that to me." Su-Yi slowly nodded and said at the same time. He didn't put Long One and Long Shan in his eyes at all. Boom! The scarlet blood demon killing god sword appeared in Su-Yi's hand in an instant. A surge of killing intent surged out. Suddenly, an azure-robed figure and an old figure flashed in the air and slashed at Long One like ghosts. Split up. Long One and Long Shan didn't have time to speak. They didn't expect Su-Yi and Zhong Yunkong to take the initiative to attack. Without hesitation, the two of them flew towards the east and west. Bang! Bang! Boom! The upper dragon square, which was not wide, was occupied by 4 experts in an instant. At this moment, Zhong Yunkong and Long Shan were fighting in the west. Clang! Clang! Golden spears clashed. Between loud roars, the violent and ferocious aura of the golden dragon soared into the sky. Two astonishing auras entangled with each other. Valiant figures continuously clashed in the air and then quickly separated. Zhong Yunkong and Long Shan continuously exchanged blows in the air. In an instant, the sky was filled with dark clouds. Thunderclouds rolled, and the split space was filled with gorgeous and fierce golden clouds. Looking from afar, the two powerful thunderbolts in the golden clouds were more like two fierce golden dragons fighting for their lives. Even with the golden dragon aura protecting their bodies, the villagers couldn't help but feel a heavy, suffocating feeling spread over their bodies. The murderous intent within the blurry space rippled. It was thick and viscous like a tidal wave, causing the injured villagers to turn even paler in fear. Was this the attack of an Origin Domain Realm expert? Everyone was dumbfounded. Elder Yu and Liu Kan had already let go of the previous failure, but they were still worried about Su Yi, who had rushed over. Yellow dust rose everywhere. The golden aura light pillar from the west swept over, enveloping Su Yi and Long One in the east. The dust in the air began to fall, and everything began to become clear. Long One could only see a pair of serene, deep eyes behind the dust. The young man in front of him was calm and indifferent. His entire body emitted a kind of indifference and ruthlessness towards life. More accurately, it was absolute contempt towards himself. Su Yi stood upright, his black hair blowing behind him. His entire body emitted a heaven-defying aura of an expert. Long One was incomparably clear. The energy aura around Su Yi was far from what an ordinary Origin Emperor could compare to. In front of such a strong opponent, Long Wen's heart trembled, and his tyrannical soul weakened for no reason. For the first time, shock appeared in his long and narrow eyes. He secretly raised the energy under his feet, ready to strike. At the same time, Su Yi's green-robed figure swayed, completely blocking Long Wen's path of attack. The vast golden dragon aura didn't leave any blind spots for Long One. He looked at Long One with an evil smile, like catching a turtle in a jar. The atmosphere was strange. An Origin Emperor expert had actually blocked the path of an Origin Domain Realm expert. Long Wen's eyes flickered with coldness as he looked at the young man in front of him. He felt that there was something familiar about this pair of eyes. Chapter 2083. Even if he didn't know Su Yi's background, Long Wen didn't dare to be careless because of the inexplicable throbbing in his heart. Su Yi looked at Long Wen indifferently and sneered without saying a word. In his mind, he was thinking about what the Long family had done in the past few years. Gradually, the killing intent in his eyes was getting heavier and heavier. The Long family chased the Upper Dragon Village for 100 years, and it was the same for the Duanmu Qing Tian. It was even more so for the Tian Yao School. Must one step on the bones of all the innocent people to reach the peak of martial arts? Do they hate people of the same bloodline so much? Unconsciously, Su Yi's hands that were holding the blood demon killing god sword began to tremble, and the area between his thumb and index finger turned from red to white because of the huge force. The abnormally terrifying golden thunder roared out and surrounded Su Yi's body like a python. Chila! Suddenly, the fierce energy around Su Yi's body caused the space in front of him to crack inch by inch, and a series of terrifying sonic booms sounded. The more you want it, the more you can't get it. Su Yi lowered his head, and the corner of his mouth raised slightly as he sneered. Long Wen's eyes fiercely twitched. The sudden surge of blood chi from the young man in front of him was extremely unusual, and his cultivation skyrocketed as if there was a blood feud between them. Long Wen was unconsciously stunned in place. What? Long Wen asked again. He was stunned. Tell that old bastard Draconis that one day I will trample on his broken palace. Not only will I cripple his son, but I will also make him atone for his sins. Su Yi said coldly from between his teeth. Bang! Su Yi, whose body was covered with golden dragon patterns, suddenly gathered an energy vortex under his feet. The speed of his movement was even more like a wild dragon coming out of the sea, and he violently smashed down on Long Wen's head. Look at section PU of B, main chapter 0-inch, but unfortunately, you can't go back. Killing sword art. Su Yi, who had leaped high into the air, was like a golden dragon soaring into the sky. The enormous wave of God-killing sword instantly covered the entire sky, and an incomparably fierce golden dragon, along with a fierce sword intent, smashed towards Long Wen's body. Su Yi's sudden increase in speed far exceeded Long Wen's imagination. His pupils shrank, and without thinking, Long Wen rearranged the golden dragon shield in front of him. Within a few breaths of time, Su Yi and Long Wen's ferocious attacks shattered a large area of space in front of them. So powerful! Elder Yu and the other villagers' eyes were filled with shock. Liu Kan and Elder Yu glanced at each other, their throats moving rapidly as chills ran down their spines due to the murderous atmosphere in front of them. So he's so strong. Liu Kan swallowed a mouthful of saliva as he exclaimed in surprise. Thinking back to how he had made things difficult for Su Yi just now, Isu was still willing to protect the villagers of Shanglong. Liu Kan's face twitched and blushed, but soon, the shame in his eyes turned into worship and respect for the strong. At the same time, Lu Qi, who was healing Nyo de Bao, looked back at the sky, his half-squatting body trembling in horror, and said proudly, as if he was showing off to Elder Yu, "Village Chief Kan I've said that he is the real guardian of Shanglong Village. He is the real opportunity of our Shanglong Village." If Lu Qi had brought Su Yi back to the village and said this before, the villagers would have thought that he was being rebellious or even talking nonsense. But in this situation, no one doubted Lu Qi's words. This young man, who was only 25 or 26 years old, had saved Shanglong Village from danger several times. If this was not an opportunity, what else could it be? At such a young age, he could fight with Long Wen like this. The aura of the golden dragon on his body was even more domineering and astonishing, and the constantly rising aura of his cultivation constantly refreshed everyone's worldview. Suddenly, all the fiery eyes gathered on Su Yi again, and in the stone house, the tender voices of several children could be heard. "Brother Isu, you can do it! Brother Isu, you are my big hero!" In the void, a terrifying energy spun rapidly, and the golden dragon burst out from the tip of the sword, wrapped in a monstrous momentum, smashed into the large shield in front of Long Wen. Bang! A violent shock wave rolled wildly, and a huge energy wave exploded in front of the two people. Su Yi, who was standing tall, held the giant sword with both hands, and used his physical body to resist the terrifying energy shock wave. Su Yi hit the golden shield lightly, and the veins on his whole body suddenly bulged. The huge blood demon killing god sword also shot out dazzling golden sparks because of the violent impact. What a strong physical body. Long Wen, who was behind the shield, took 3 steps back and looked at Su Yi, who was half a body taller than him, under the huge pressure. After being refined by the ancient dragon's breath, Su Yi's mixed Yuan demon body was not comparable to the ordinary golden dragon's flesh and blood. "Cut down! Break!" Su Yi shouted, and all the energy in his body poured into the golden shield. Long Wen, who was firmly pressed down below, realized that Su Yi could not cut through the golden shield, but did not let go. Instead, he tried to cut through his golden shield. Immediately, a sharp and sinister smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. Inside the dusky space, Long Wen let out a deep shout and transferred his aura to the golden shield once again. "Huh, not good. Be careful, Lord Isu." Below, Elder Yu realized that this was the golden dragon break that Long Wen had used against him just now. The golden dragon on the golden shield could devour energy and reflect all the energy from the impact, causing the opponent to be caught off guard and suffer serious injuries. Roar! Sure enough, as soon as his voice fell, the fierce dragon head on the golden shield once again broke free from the body, and the 5-fingered golden claw directly blasted out, violently grabbing towards Su Yi's blood demon killing god sword. Go to hell. Let's see how you block it. Longwen laughed strangely. At this point, he was certain that victory was in his hands. Seeing the giant golden dragon crawling up the giant's sword, roaring crazily and absorbing the energy in the sword, the people below gasped, and their eyes turned serious. Is this all the Long family's people have? He was not in a hurry. His eyes were cold as he flipped his wrist. Raising his eyebrows, He fully activated the strength of a third-level origin ancestor. Suddenly, a giant blood-red sword ray appeared out of thin air, tearing the golden dragon apart. Roar! A shrill beast roar resounded through the sky, and the demonic beasts in the distant forest groveled in response, their beast souls trembling. What? Longwen was shocked. As the golden dragon roared, the golden shield and golden dragon were pushed back by the violent sword wave and directly flew back to the golden shield. The golden dragon returned to the golden shield, and the dazzling golden light also disappeared. An incomparably domineering soul pressure was transmitted to Longwen's mind, and a heart-wrenching pain spread throughout his body. Bang! The golden dragon aura in Su Yi's heart quickly circulated, and he lifted the heavy sword. The sword edge flew out of Su Yi's hand again, and the huge power was like a target that was firmly inserted into Longwen's golden shield. Chapter 2084. What? My essence chi. Longwen would never have thought that his essence chi would be absorbed back by Su Yi when he wanted to absorb Su Yi's energy. In the sky, no matter how much Longwen tried to withdraw, he could still feel the terrifying golden dragon aura lingering on his body. Helpless, Longwen glared at Su Yi and clenched his teeth to forcefully break off the essence chi attack. PFFF. In midair, Longwen spat out a mouthful of blood after breaking off the essence chi. The repercussions of hastily withdrawing the essence chi were severe internal injuries. After dodging Su Yi's soul-spirit lock in a hurry, Longwen didn't stop running and tried to occupy the other side. Su Yi was quick to react and wouldn't give Longwen such a chance. Suddenly, he sped up and locked on a Longwen's position like a phantom. In the next second, Su Yi turned the tip of his sword and burst out with a huge thunderbolt again. The golden dragon light pierced through the sky and bombarded Longwen, who was running away, with a destructive dragon aura. The ferocious golden light cut across the sky, and a majestic aura spread across the sky. In an instant, there was a gust of wind and golden light. Longwen, who was running away, finally realized that Su Yi's cultivation wasn't at the 8th level of the Origin Emperor realm. He was basically at the 3rd level of the Origin Ancestor realm. When the pursuing light got close to Longwen's back, a cold wind blew past Longwen's ears. Longwen suddenly smelled the aura of death. "Let me help you." A low muffled sound came from the west. It was Long Shan, who had escaped from Zhong Yunkong's hands, running over. Boom! In a split second, Long Shan saw that the situation wasn't right. He quickly changed his hand seals and pushed his palm force out without hesitation. The golden light pillar collided with Su Yi's pursuing light pillar. Clang! The huge impact forced Su Yi and Longwen, who were running over, to retreat in 2 different directions. Longwen and Su Yi spat out a mouthful of blood at the same time because of Long Shan's sinister move. The former was directly sent flying several feet away and was caught by Long Shan, who was rushing over. Bang! Standing still, Longwen's aura had already withered a little, and it was difficult for him to get rid of the lingering fear in his heart. However, he didn't dare to relax. His eyes flashed as he stared at the distant Su Yi. This fellow is actually at the 3rd level of the Origin Ancestor stage. The most troublesome thing is that he can suppress my golden dragon aura. Longwen spat out the blood in his mouth as shock filled his eyes. When he heard this, Long Shan, whose eyes were half squinted, also nodded, and his gaze once again glanced towards Su Yi in the distance, seeming to be lost in thought. His golden dragon bloodline is extremely pure, comparable to that of the dragon god. If we can't bring him back to the Dragon Palace today, we can't let him live. Deal with him with all your might. On the other side, Su-Yi seized the opportunity and quickly poured a small bottle of spirit liquid into his mouth. Now that his origin ancestor stage strength had been completely exposed, what awaited him in the next moment was an all-out slaughter. As he secretly checked his injuries, Su-Yi felt even colder towards the Long family in his heart. He muttered to himself, "As expected, it's the Long family. They said they were helping Long One. If I hadn't dodged that move just now and they killed me, Long One definitely wouldn't have survived. Commander, these two people definitely can't be allowed to return to the Long family." Zhong Yunkong, who had the experience of killing a member of the Long family once, had a cold gaze. It was very obvious that the two people from the Long family had already shifted their target to Su-Yi at this moment. Even if their strength was slightly inferior now, they understood the principle of letting the tiger return to the mountain. Long Shan's eyes were like a poisonous snake's as he moved his feet lightly, probing for a route to attack Su-Yi as he said coldly, "Kid, is it worth it to throw away your life for these ants below?" Ignoring Long Shan's probing, Su-Yi took a deep breath and secretly activated the Origin Supreme technique. QZ at Lwayuk Ijing version square root, or LC hashtag all C is, Steel KJ version Y0. The divine mystic meridians in his body had expanded greatly, and under the nourishment of the golden dragon Qi, the energy of the divine mystic meridians quickly smoothed out the disordered meridians in his body. When the surging Qi of vitality once again surged into the great void spirit sea, Su-Yi finally heaved a sigh of relief. He raised his eyebrows and said, "As long as it's about the Long family, you must stop it even if it costs your life. Then you can go and die." Long Shan and Long Wen retreated backwards, and a golden gale instantly surrounded their bodies. Boom! The two of them stood one in front and one behind. Their strange positions caused their auras to soar. Zhong Yunkong sucked in a breath of cold air and reminded Su-Yi in a low voice, "It's the Long family's joint attack." Looking at the strange posture of the two people in the distance, Zhong Yunkong gasped and reminded Su-Yi in a low voice. Then, Zhong Yunkong stepped on his profound handle and said seriously, "It looks like we have no choice but to use the defensive formation. Commander, quickly follow me at the location of the two dragons' eyes." In the next moment, Zhong Yunkong's figure disappeared. Under the gaze of Long One and Long Shan, Su-Yi and Zhong Yunkong returned to where Elder Yu and Liu Kan were previously. However, there were no dozens of villagers behind them to protect the formation. The location of a dragon's eyes was connected to the defensive formation. As soon as Su-Yi stood still, the golden dragon aura around Su-Yi's body surged out. His heart slightly moved. Su-Yi raised his eyes and found that the defensive formation above his head that was like a big bowl cover was continuously shrinking. Zhong Yunkong's face was ashen, and the long staff in his hand was constantly waving, as if he was activating the formation. In a split second, rays of golden light converged from the horizon, and the majestic golden light pillar fell between Su-Yi and Zhong Yunkong like a storm. How could Long One and Long Shan give Zhong Yunkong the chance to set up the formation? They angrily pushed their palms forward and back, and the golden dragon aura roared out like the sun, madly attacking Su-Yi and Zhong Yunkong. "Lord Protector, Lord Isu, be careful." The villagers below looked at the two sides in horror, and the fierce soul energy that filled the air made everyone afraid. Rumble! High up in the sky, a thunderous sound resounded out of nowhere. The turbulent upper dragon village trembled and tore apart once again, and the vast golden dragon aura directly razed the surrounding mountains and rocks to the ground. Bang bang! After knowing Zhong Yunkong's thoughts, Su-Yi no longer hesitated, and the blood demon killing god sword was held horizontally in front of his chest. Under the earth-shattering golden might, Su-Yi gradually calmed down, and a rich golden light energy completely erupted from Su-Yi's body. Roar! The 3 golden dragon souls in his mind spun rapidly, releasing a shocking dragon aura with all their might, and the blood in his body turned from red to pure gold. Looking from afar, Suyi's entire body was shrouded in golden light, and he looked like a god of war. Within the golden light, fierce golden dragon energy flew out, causing everyone, including the villagers, Zhong Yunkong, and even Long One and Long Shan, to tremble in fear. How can there be such a strong golden dragon energy? It's much stronger than the Lord Protector. Under the fierce aura, the villagers looked at each other, and their bodies and blood began to tremble uncontrollably, and a feeling that came from the bottom of their hearts spread throughout their bodies. This was a kind of heartbeat, and also a kind of heartfelt submission. Chapter 2085. Looking at the scene before them, Long One and Long Shan's hearts were already trembling nonstop. The fierce and domineering aura stunned them for a few seconds before their killing intent surged. The Brahma Dragon Celestial Palace would never allow this kind of bloodline suppression. Even if Su-Yi was only at the origin ancestor realm, they would never allow such a person to exist. Suppressing the fear and shock in their hearts, Long One and Long Shan shouted loudly, and their auras became even more violent. A vast and surging golden dragon phantom appeared between them. Roar! The golden dragon was ferocious, and its aura was vigorous. The golden dragon phantom, with its fangs and claws, occupied the entire sky in front of them. The void started to blur, and the surrounding space started to tremble nonstop. Light flickered, and the golden dragon roared. Its entire body was glistening with golden light as it spat out bloody light, aiming at Su-Yi and Zhong Yunkong. In the next second, the eyes of Long One and Long Shan, who had just been excited, started to flicker completely. Extreme trembling surged in their hearts. The two of them were like wooden chickens as they stared blankly at the sky. Roar! Amidst the accumulated dark clouds, a deafening roar pierced through the clouds and cracked rocks. Amidst the flickering light, the aura of the entire Upper Dragon Village continued to rise. A real golden dragon roared as it broke through the clouds and stretched across the void. Everyone present looked at the golden dragon soaring in the sky. Its abdomen was engraved with 5-clawed, auspicious clouds, and its entire body was covered in divine light. The lifelike dragon pattern in the sky was dazzling and resplendent, opening and closing without end. Behind it was a vast expanse of stars that seemed to ripple between the heavens. Its aura was domineering and powerful, and it seemed like it could destroy all life in the world at any time. The golden dragon's huge eyes opened and closed, overlooking the entire land. Light mist puffed out from its volcano-like nostrils, and the scorching aura it emitted quickly covered the entire Upper Dragon Village. Chi, the scorching aura emitted from the dragon's body, scalded the skin of every villager present. Shock and astonishment flashed across the faces of every villager present. Creak! Very quickly, the surrounding trees were shrinking at a speed visible to the naked eye. In the blink of an eye, they were burned to ashes by the high temperature. Brilliant flames illuminated the dusky land. Countless cracks appeared on the incomparably hard rocks, and the surroundings were like a fiery purgatory. Above his head, the golden dragon circled in the sky, its flapping scales reflecting a terrifying killing intent. Under the cover of its huge body, everyone seemed as small as a drop in the ocean. Unconsciously, the villagers present ignored the pain on their bodies and felt an illusion of worship in their hearts. One by one, they fell to their knees and prostrated themselves on the ground, not daring to raise their heads. This was a real dragon, a supreme dragon that had crossed over from the ancient times. At this moment, the primordial golden dragon that appeared in the sky was the totem in the hearts of the Upper Dragon Village. No one would have thought that a true golden dragon would descend upon the world and suppress the evil creatures with an unstoppable momentum. Golden dragon. It's my clan's golden dragon. Elder Yu was extremely agitated. His chest was like a raging sea as he prostrated himself on the ground with both hands, continuously praying to the heavens. Immediately after, the villagers present muttered to themselves, and they were extremely excited as they knelt down and bowed with reverence in their eyes. This was the first time he had seen a golden dragon in his life. One could imagine how excited he was. This was an unprecedented, fortuitous encounter. The villagers of Upper Dragon Village would probably never see such a scene again in their lifetime. No one would have thought that the young man in front of them could summon such a huge five-clawed golden dragon. Oh my God, this is an opportunity for my Upper Dragon Village. My Upper Dragon Village is going to be revived. Lu Chi grabbed Liu Qin's shoulder tightly with tears in his eyes. He was already speaking without thinking, and he was ecstatic. It's a real dragon. It's a golden dragon. Zhong Yunkong, who was close by, had also completely lost his mind. The boiling temperature in the depths of his blood made him extremely sure that everything in front of him was real. Raising their heads, every villager looked at Long One and Long Shan with cold eyes, completely without the fear from before. Then, anger and killing intent surged up, and the villagers were like mad lion beasts. High in the sky, Long One and Long Shan, who had summoned the huge golden dragon, tried their best to calm the complicated shock in their hearts. Their eyes flashed with horror, and their bodies trembled because of the golden dragon. Long One murmured, "Impossible. Only the dragon god can summon the golden dragon true body. How is it possible for him?" Standing in place, the killing intent in their hearts was gradually replaced by shock and fear. It was as if their bodies were fixed and they forgot to move. They were as stiff as stone statues, and could only watch as this extremely huge and domineering golden dragon spewed destructive flames in the sky. Even if it spat out destructive flames, it would be difficult for it to resist. It was as if he had traveled through the ancient times. Amidst the dense golden flames, Su Yi's entire body was suffused with red. The flames seemed to be drawn from Su Yi's body, leaving behind a strange red light from his meridians to his pores. His skin, which was as hard as iron, began to crack along with the surging waves of fire, as if a stone was withering. At this moment, on top of the stone house, a golden-haired figure staggered, as if swaying in the wind. Her beautiful figure floated, looking at the terrifying golden dragon of destruction in the sky, her eyes filled with shock. Under such circumstances, everyone's attention was on the golden dragon and the young man. As the flame-like fragments on Su Yi's body fell down, Su Yi finally let out a painful scream from the depths of his throat. Not good. The commander's cultivation can't withstand the golden dragon's pressure. Zhong Yunkong came back to his senses and immediately turned pale with fright. His gaze also turned solemn. One had to know that the primordial golden dragon's aura was extremely tyrannical, and its requirements for one's bloodline and muscles were monstrous. It was already a miracle that Su Yi could summon the golden dragon's true body with his origin ancestor strength and extremely high golden dragon talent. It was too difficult for him to command the golden dragon in battle. Even back then, it was impossible for him to command the golden dragon with the strength of a half-step Yuan Tian. Immediately, everyone's hearts beat wildly again, and all the pores on their bodies began to tremble. Nervous emotions fell on the young man in the sky. Enveloped by the flames, Su Yi felt his internal organs, bones, muscles, limbs, and bones begin to feel a burning sensation. The remnants of the spiritual liquid that he had swallowed earlier also rapidly evaporated under such extreme heat. Roar! Within the spirit sea, the golden dragon's shadow moved rapidly along the mysterious ball of light like a phantom and could break out of his body at any time. Soon, Su Yi's consciousness began to blur. Su Yi, who was wrapped in the devouring flames, kept shouting in his heart, "Move! Get moving!" Chapter 2086. Kid, it's already not easy for you to summon this golden dragon and still be able to bear it. The iron soulfish's heavy voice came from his heart. Faced with such a situation, the iron soulfish also felt the danger. I don't believe it. If I can summon it, then I can move. Su-Yi gritted his teeth and endured the burning pain on his skin and the tearing sensation in his mind as he shouted. Roar! Several blood veins on his body burst open again. The golden dragon in the sky moved in response, and the roaring flames followed Su-Yi's consciousness to where Long Wan and Long Shan were. Long Wan, go. This guy is still far from being able to control it as he pleases. We'll end it in one go. Long Shan narrowed his eyes and took in Su-Yi's abnormal state. He immediately made a prompt decision and shouted loudly. Long Wan, who had regained his senses, also immediately realized that something was wrong. He stomped his feet in the air, and his dark purple robe fluttered again. The cold and fierce light in his eyes reappeared, and Long Wan shouted, So you're just a dabbler. Then go. Boom. The golden dragon behind the two instantly rippled with wind and thunder and bombarded Su-Yi's location. Scarlet light flickered, and dozens of golden streaks of light shot out from the ferocious golden dragon. Like sharp arrows, they immediately froze the space around Su-Yi's body. The thickest golden dragon beam followed, and it was aimed squarely at Su-Yi's heart. Bang! Bang! Move! Su-Yi, who was in a daze, shook his head in the flames. He waved his arms angrily, and an astonishing explosive force shattered the space in front of him. In the next moment, a terrifyingly hot flame burst out from the golden dragon's body, and the violent and destructive aura shattered the dozens of light arrows one by one. Bang, bang, bang. The continuous shockwaves were accompanied by scorching wind waves, and all the spirit herbs and fruits within a radius of dozens of miles were turned to ashes. The violent force was like a sharp knife, and it carved a shocking trench in the mountains of Yun region. The mountains shook and the ground cracked. Under the fierce, killing aura, all the villagers huddled together. Their delicate souls were in great pain because of the violent shockwave. The aura of the golden dragon surged back and forth in the sky, shattering and piling up the clouds in the sky. They didn't know where to look with their dull eyes. The mountain was filled with flying dust, and the cracked ground made everyone's heart tremble hundreds of times. Then, he looked at the young man on the horizon in astonishment. Zhong Yunkong flashed to Su-Yi's side and sensed that Su-Yi's golden dragon aura was continuously decreasing. Commander, I'll help you. Zhong Yunkong gritted his teeth, took a deep breath, and pushed his palms against Su-Yi's back. All of a sudden, the flames around Su-Yi's body surged like a raging storm, and the ferocious golden dragon energy surged through the air once again. Puchi, Zhong Yunkong, who had forcefully infused the golden dragon aura into his body, immediately spat out a mouthful of blood. His deathly pale face revealed an unswerving determination. After regaining some consciousness, Su-Yi opened his eyes, which were filled with a mixture of blood and red light. He sensed that Zhong Yunkong's aura was very weak. I swear to protect the Shanglong. Take good care of them. Zhong Yunkong laughed bitterly. He glanced at the fiercest golden dragon that was about to shoot out from the corner of his eye. After saying that, Zhong Yunkong forcefully twisted his body in the air and used his skinny body to shield Su-Yi. At that moment, an electric current flashed through Su-Yi's mind, instantly suppressing the clamorous golden dragon aura. Child, promise your grandmother that you will take good care of the people of Ling Ancient Village and protect the bloodline of Tianyao School. Grandmother Shangwan's words before her tragic death suddenly appeared in front of him. Just like what Zhong Yunkong had said, this was their home. This was the spiritual territory that they relied on to survive. Su-Yi's crimson eyes immediately dimmed. Instead, they were replaced by a murderous aura. The extreme stench in his blood was overwhelming. This time, even if I die, I will protect the people that I want to protect. Bang! I'll go to your Long family. I'll peel your bones and pull out your tendons. Those who bully my Shanglong, I'll send you to hell. Su-Yi shouted loudly. The mysterious light in his mind suddenly poured out a vast and boundless aura. The energy contained seemed to have transcended the heavens and the earth. Suddenly, the roaring golden dragon aura responded for no reason. Clang! With that, Su-Yi grabbed Zhong Yunkang's waist and threw him down. He rushed in the direction of the light beam like lightning. At the same time, the huge golden dragon body stretched out behind him. He waved his claws from afar. The terrifying golden dragon aura seemed to have descended from the ninth heaven. It directly grabbed the light beam that was flying toward him and shot it toward Long One and Long Shan like a miracle. Golden light shone. The huge light beam in the sky suddenly changed direction and blasted toward the powerhouses of the Long family. The momentum was incomparably fast. The space along the way suddenly collapsed inch by inch, and it was difficult to recover. What? Looking at the rapid change in the situation, Long One and Long Shan were shocked at the same time. The light beam that suddenly changed direction was no small matter. Boom! The two of them shouted and activated the golden dragon aura at the same time. Long One was in front, and Long Shan was behind. Their hand seals were directly activated, turning the golden dragon phantom behind them into a huge golden dragon barrier in front of them. Most recent chapter upper 0 kin the time it took for a spark to fly off a flint. The huge turning light beam slashed out a huge pitch-black void along the way, and then fiercely landed on the golden barrier. Buzz! The spatial barrier suddenly caved in, as if a huge needle had fallen on a balloon. The ripples in the air instantly twisted together. At the moment of impact, an overwhelming amount of technical light poured down on the barrier. Immediately after, Long One and Long Shan both felt a gravity that seemed like the sky was falling and the earth was splitting apart along their arms. Bam! The two of them widened their eyes. This was definitely not a power that Su-Yi could possess. Immediately, they spat out a mouthful of blood on the barrier. In less than a breath of time, the golden barrier instantly disintegrated under the explosion of the light beam. It violently exploded on the spot, and, at the same time, the golden light in the air was blown into pieces and dissipated. Boom! In the wind and thunder all over the sky, the terrifying golden dragon energy spread out like a halo, filling the sky above the Shanglong village. Suddenly, a huge void black hole appeared in the sky. The explosive energy ripples wildly rippled and collapsed on Su-Yi and the two elders of the Long family. In the face of such a horrible scene, the villagers of Shanglong village were already dumbfounded. Zhong Yunkang, who was left behind by Su-Yi, was caught by Elder Yu and Lu Qi. Under the aftermath of the energy, Lu Qi and Elder Yu had to protect the villagers as much as possible. They did not dare to be careless. Looking at the terrifying energy sweeping across the sky, everyone was stunned. Chapter 2087. Long Shan, who was behind Long One, was also heavily injured by the shockwave. He spat out a large mouthful of blood and was forced to retreat. His eyes were filled with dispirited shock. Staring at Su-Yi, who was wrapped in flames, Long Shan's heart was still palpitating. If Long One had not blocked in front of him, two people would have died. Asterisk forever % free look at little I say 0 QQ Su-Yi's upright body was trembling rapidly. The blood in his body was boiling like magma. Wrapped in the fiery energy aura, Su-Yi pushed his hands forward again and stomped his feet on the ground. Suddenly, a destructive and vast golden dragon aura shot out again. At this moment, Su-Yi had already lost consciousness. There was only one thought in his mind: kill everyone from the Long family. A low and hoarse voice flew out from Su-Yi's throat. Su-Yi's body was like a wild dragon rushing out of the sea towards Long Shan. Long Shan's eyes quickly shrank. His chest was already as dry as a box, and his face instantly turned pale. Su-Yi in front of him was fighting without any regard for his life. His footsteps were constantly forced back. Long Shan's heart was filled with fear. The rapidly surging Yuan Qi vortex caused an energy ripple to appear in the air with every step Long Shan took. He did not know why Su Yi was so ruthless to the Long family. Golden light overflowed. The huge dragon body behind Su Yi quickly occupied a large area of space. With a dragon roar, Su Yi's blood demon killing god sword appeared in his hand. On his tiger palm, the sword light also shone brightly, causing people's hearts to tremble. Only when he was close, looking at the huge sword in Su Yi's hand and those determined eyes that would never give up, did Long Shan think of something. At this time, a majestic killing intent had already cut through the air. "You are," Long Shan exclaimed. Even 10,000 regrets in his heart could not describe his current mood. An ear-piercing sonic boom resounded in his ears. The long space crack in front of him turned into ashes. Long Shan's body retreated in slow motion. Bang! The attack, which should have been terrifying and deadly, suddenly stopped in midair. The golden dragon sword aura also stopped 1 meter away from Long Shan's chest. What? Everyone's eyes were filled with surprise. They were so shocked that they straightened their bodies and looked at the strange changes in the sky. But no one noticed that Lu Qi's house behind them had been destroyed into a pile of rubble, and a golden energy beam was emitted from the ruins. Long Shan, who had just escaped death, was in a sorry state. The ferocious energy wave had torn his robe apart, and his chest that was dripping with blood revealed his white bones. Turning around in a flurry, Long Shan's gaze was trembling. He only saw a beautiful golden figure quietly flying over from the sky. There was a dazzling golden light in her hand. Suddenly, a huge spatial crack appeared in the sky, filled with golden clouds. When the light fell, the pitch-black spatial crack instantly diluted a large amount of energy in the space. When he saw who it was, Long Shan, who was like an arrow at the end of its flight, seemed to have found his ally. His heart trembled as he shouted in surprise, "Miss Longya!" It turned out that the one who saved Long Shan was Longya, who came out of Lu Qi's stone house. Because Su Yi had used all the aura of the golden dragon to activate the golden dragon, his control over Longya had already disappeared. Without any explanation, Longya, who was standing in the void, raised her eyebrows and split the energy wave in front of her with the golden whip in her hand. She said angrily, "Elder Long Shan, you go first. I'll be right there." Above the void, Longya, who had a hot figure, looked at Su Yi in the fire, who was like a god of war. Her face was full of shock and complexity. Then, she waved the long whip in her hand like a dragon. The whip shadow fell like a storm and scattered the remaining space waves. "You are really from the Long family, Longya." A hoarse and low voice came from the flames, and the boiling flames began to dissipate slowly. It was visible to the naked eye that after the formation was destroyed, Su Yi's aura of the golden dragon was rapidly dissipating, and at this time, his aura was constantly declining. "I'm sorry." Longya's eyes flickered. At this time, for the sake of the Long family, Longya had to stand up. "You should be sorry to them below." In the void, Su Yi approached step by step, and the anger in his heart began to spread. His eyes were glowing with hatred as he stared fiercely at Longya. Su Yi stared fiercely at Longya in front of him. His fierce aura spread out again, and the flame in his palm was endless. He pointed at the forsaken dragon clan below. At this moment, everyone, including Shao Qian, Anyo, Shao Lei, and the others, had come out. In addition to the palpitations and horror in their eyes, there was endless sadness and disappointment. No one had expected that this battle to defend their homeland would end up like this. "Sister Iya," a tender voice came from below, and it was like a sharp sword piercing Longya's heart. This was not the effect that Longya wanted. She only wanted to find Zhong Yunkong before the Long family came and bring him back to the Long family. She did not want to slaughter the village and did not want anyone to die. She had grown up under the care of her grandfather, Long Kuei, and had only experienced the ruthlessness of life and death in the Long Ben army. Now, Longya was faced with the simple and honest faces, but because of her, they were shocked and disappointed. Longya was a little absent-minded, and her indifferent expression was slightly flustered. She trembled and said, No, it's not like this. I don't want to become like this. Below, Lucci and Old Man, you were extremely angry. They protected the children under their bodies, and Lu can even supported Zhong Yunkong and roared at the beautiful figure in the sky. She's not Yuya. She's Longya. She came to Shanglong village to kill us. She's a member of the Long family. At this moment, the eyes of the villagers and children who had not yet recovered suddenly dimmed. They could not believe the reality in front of them, and their faces were full of sadness and disappointment. How could the person who healed Lu Qi, brought the children back to Shanglong village, and helped to set up the Golden Dragon restriction spell be a member of the Long family? Wow! The children's eyes began to flicker. Even if they did not want to believe it, the ruins of Lu Qi's house behind them had already proved everything. Then, they called her a liar and glared at Longya with anger. In a large space, everyone was like roaring wild beasts, and they wanted to tear Longya into pieces. Liar! You liar! Big sister, I hate you. You're the same as the Long family, evil people. Sister Yuya, I hate you. You're the sinner of Shanglong village. I, Lan, will never like you again. Above the void, Longya's face changed, and she was silent. A sense of shame that she had never felt before occupied her weak heart. What else do you have to say? Sui stared at Longya and waved the blood devil-killing god sword in his hand again. Sui wanted to kill Longya and Longshan once and for all before the golden dragon aura in his body completely disappeared. With a sad laugh, Longya staggered back, and her hands holding the long whip hung down as if there were no bones. Her blonde hair was messy, and she looked at Sui with incomparable determination. Chapter 2088. Ha ha ha. Sui, who was in the flames, roared. His huge body of flames expanded again as he shouted angrily. In that case, there is no other choice. Blame it on the fact that you are from the Long family. Boom! Longya's long golden hair fluttered in the wind. Longya's pupils constricted as she was shocked by Suyi's murderous aura. Sui raised the blood demon killing god, sword high up in the air. His muscles suddenly burst, and a domineering aura flowed out from Suyi's body. The mysterious and unpredictable scarlet sword drew a huge arc in front of him. Then, the sharp and fierce sword slashed down from the sky, aiming for Longya's head. Longya's gaze was fixed on the flaming figure. She pursed her lips tightly and was in a daze. She forgot to move for a moment. In the pitch-black space crack, Longshan's eyes kept rolling. Suddenly, he shouted, "Don't hurt my young mistress." Suddenly, Longshan waved his sleeves rapidly in the air, and a stream of light shot towards the villagers below. Sui, who was in midair, stopped his attack. Suddenly, his eyes widened and a ball of flames blasted out from his body. Longya stopped breathing when she saw this. She turned around and glared at Longshan. She shouted angrily, "Longshan, what are you doing?" Sui and Longya were shocked at the same time. Longshan sneered and shouted, "Let's go. It will be too late if you don't go now. Zhong Yunkong will come back next time. The Golden Dragon bloodline will be a disaster if we keep it." On the ground, all the villagers on Shanglong gasped as they looked up at the golden light cascading down. Their legs stiffened. If the stream of light of the Origin Dominion State fell, Shanglong village would be destroyed. Even though Longshan was leaving, he did not want any of the Golden Dragon bloodline to be left outside. Sui, who had no time to care about Longya, moved quickly on the spot. He circulated his primordial chi and shot the last stream of Golden Dragon aura toward the stream of light. Boom! T original dollar starter 0. The sky-blotting light blasted high up in the sky. Streams of extremely bright light clashed against each other, exploding above the upper dragon village. The golden light from the dragon mountain eventually turned into a sphere of dazzling mist and dissipated. Following the spreading shockwave, Longya stomped her foot, gritted her teeth, and returned to the black spatial rift. An indifferent voice came down from the sky. "Isu, I lied to you, but you also lied to me. Yuanzong's golden dragon bloodline. From today onwards, we are even. Today you protect the dragon. but when we meet again, we will definitely be enemies." Long Ye angrily glared at Long Shan. She was extremely furious with Long Shan's move just now. She was the first to enter the crack. After Long Ye left, Long Shan turned around and coldly looked at Su Yi, who was hastily setting up a defensive barrier in the air. "Su Yi, I want you to die a horrible death." Long Shan's cold voice quickly floated down. Long Shan smiled evilly. He shook his robe again and immediately entered the crack that was about to close up. At that moment, a golden ball quietly floated out of the crack. Its speed was getting faster and faster, like a stream of fire descending into the world. "Commander!" Zhong Yunkong covered his wound and shouted loudly. "Brother Isu!" Lucan also looked at the void with trembling eyes. The golden ball scattered across the sky like a meteor, quickly burning the air in its path into pieces. It was flowing with extraordinary splendor and emitted a terrifying dragon roar. Zhong Yunkong clearly knew that it was the Long family's hidden weapon killer move. His desire to kill the upper dragon was still not dead. Long Shan's ruthlessness was evident. Bang! Without any more doubts, Lu Kan angrily shouted. He stomped his foot heavily, and the primordial qi in his body surged as he flew toward Su Yi. Su Yi, who had regained his senses, naturally felt the sound of the wind behind him. Unfortunately, all the primordial qi in his body had been exhausted, and there was no way to reverse the situation. His gaze immediately turned solemn. "Demon God battle suit." Su Yi roared angrily in his heart. As soon as his voice fell, a demonic light flashed and covered his body. Su Yi and Lu Kan's figures crossed each other in the void. Immediately after, a violent explosion resounded in the air behind them. Boom! The instant the explosion resounded, sparks flew everywhere. The roar was like a sudden clap of thunder. Lu Kan closed his eyes and used all his strength to pull off the pendant in front of his chest. Suddenly, a majestic force enveloped the two of them. It was like a ball that blocked the monstrous energy wave attack outside of their body. Bang! Lu Kan had just caught Su Yi when he was blown far away by the fierce wind. Su Yi, who was enveloped by the energy wave, also felt the primordial qi in his meridians suddenly stagnate due to the impact. His vision turned black. Bang! In the air, Su Yi's legs went soft. Like a carriage that had lost its power, he fell heavily from a low altitude and smashed into a deep pit in the square. The crisis was finally over. All the people of Shanglong village gathered around. Lu Qi helped Su Yi out of the deep pit. At this time, Su Yi was in a difficult situation. With the help of the protective formation, he had forcibly opened the golden dragon true body. Coupled with the after effects of the mysterious light ball, even Su Yi was afraid of the consequences. Supporting himself on Lu Qi's shoulder and dragging his feet on the ground, Su Yi did not even need to think about it. He must be miserable. Taking a deep breath, Su Yi tried to keep his breath as stable as possible. He peered into the damaged meridians and shook his head. "Big brother Isu, Commander, brother Isu." Seeing that Su Yi was still conscious, all the people present breathed a sigh of relief and looked at Su Yi with concern. In the distance, Lu Kan, who had climbed up, was also bleeding. Although he was protected by the energy shield of the Infinity Sect, how could a warrior of the Origin Void Realm withstand the hidden weapons of the Long family? Trembling, Lu Kan walked out of the crowd with one eye half open. The other eye was so swollen that it could not be opened at all. He said in a trembling voice, "Big brother Isu, are you all right?" Lu Kan felt a little sorry for his attitude towards Su Yi before. Su Yi smiled miserably. He was not that kind of petty person. He looked at Lu Kan gently and said with a smile, "My name is Su Yi. You can call me by my real name in the future." With that, Su Yi wiped his blood-stained hands on his face and changed back to his original handsome and resolute face. Su Yi. As soon as he heard this name, Lu Kan looked as if he had seen a ghost. He narrowed his eyes and looked at Su Yi, who had suddenly become young. So young, Lu Kan swallowed a mouthful of saliva and curled his lips. Immediately, he was pulled and grimaced in pain. He could not believe it. He leaned closer to identify Su Yi's face. The Sui in front of him was clearly 18 or 19 years old, not much older than him. But until he saw the strange blood demon killing godsword in Su Yi's hand, Liu Kan's eyes lit up and he was convinced. His palms kept tapping the ground, and his head was like a woodpecker. He shouted excitedly at Elder Yu and his father Lu Qi. Chapter 2089. Oh, upon hearing this, Liu Kan, Elder Yu, and even Zhong Yinkong looked at the young man in front of them in horror. They did not expect that at such a young age, he would be able to overturn the Saint Mountain and go against the Long family. I've lived for so many years in vain. Even a half-step origin sky cultivator does not have the courage of the Lord Commander. Zhong Yinkong coughed heavily and smiled. His expression was filled with admiration and helplessness. Then, he looked at the crowd with a solemn expression. Villagers of Upper Dragon Village, listen up. From now on, everyone will listen to Lord Su Yi's orders. Lord Su Yi is the divine dragon commander appointed by Lord Golden Dragon. No disobedience. As soon as he finished speaking, shock flashed across the villagers' faces. Then, every villager pulled their children and knelt in front of Su Yi. Now that Zhong Yinkong had personally acknowledged his identity and saved Upper Dragon Village, Su Yi had long become a god in their hearts. They did not dare to disrespect him at all. Big brother, Xiao Qian, Lan Lan, and the other children looked at each other. They did not know what was going on, so they were a little shy. Elder Yu's face immediately turned pale. He pulled a long face and said in a slightly reprimanding tone, still calling him Big Brother, you have to call him Lord Commander in the future. Don't be rude. Elder Yu's cloudy eyes suddenly became serious. The children were so scared that they hid behind the adults. Faced with such a scene, Sui could not help but smile. He looked at the surrounding ruins and sighed. Elder Yu, how are your injuries? Elder Yu used his strength at the 9th level of the Origin Void stage to forcefully break the Grand Defensive Formation. Although he was only borrowing the force to fight, he was still severely injured. After listening to Su Yi's words, everyone's eyes fell on Elder Yu. They were filled with worry. Lord Commander, I'm fine. After saying that, his thin chest began to gasp for breath. He was like a bellows as he coughed incessantly. Even with Su Yi's spirit liquid protecting his body, this was an irreparable injury to an 80 or 90-year-old old man. What's your plan from now on? Su Yi said faintly. His eyes were slightly tired. Bang! All the villagers of Shanglong Village said in unison, as if they had agreed beforehand, we'll follow the commander's orders. Zhong Yinkong also revealed a smile. He had never felt so relaxed before. Now that they had Su Yi, it was as if they had found their backbone. With Su Yi around, it was their home. Feeling the feeling of being treasured and owned once again, Su Yi nodded slightly. He placed his sword on the ground and looked around, preparing to speak. Qila, look at the chapter of Zhejiang's. G on section G%0 at that moment. A spatial crack appeared behind them out of nowhere. Everyone's heart trembled. Could it be that the Long family had made a comeback? Su Yi's eyes instantly sharpened. He raised his eyebrows and looked towards the horizon. Then, he shook his head and smiled at Liu Kan. They were summoned by you, right? Sui, where are you? Sui. A tender voice with a hint of eagerness and softness came along with the mountain wind. From the spatial crack, a pale green figure quickly descended, gaining the upper hand by showing off her strength. Looking from afar, it was a simple and elegant dress with vivid and lifelike drawings of mountains and rivers. It was elegant and delicate. The woman floated down from the sky. Her eyes seemed to be covered with a layer of mist. Her pink lips were like the buds of early spring. It was a completely different concept from Long Ya's charming and enchanting appearance. Long Ya. Thinking of this, Su Yi's heart sank. Since they were not from a bloodline remnant clan, but from the Long family, Su Yi asked himself, next time, should I slash down without hesitation? While thinking, the woman flew to everyone's side. Luca was a little embarrassed and greeted her first. Senior Sister Euro. As soon as he said that, a young man's face turned red. It was Han Euro from the Infinite Sect. When she heard about Sue E from her father, she pestered him to come. Little Can? Han Euro clearly didn't know why Lucan was here, but she still nodded and focused all her attention on Sue E. Sue E, are you hurt? Let me see, does it hurt? She took Sue E from Lucci's hands and stroked Sue E up and down. The dripping blood stung Han Euro's eyes, and her eyes immediately turned red. After parting at the Heavenly Soul competition, Sue E had not seen Han Euro. Now that he was being cared for in public, Sue E felt a little awkward. Miss Euro, I'm fine, it's nothing. Sue E curled his lips. Han Euro was still as bold and unrestrained as when they first met. She was the shrewish girl next door. But this kindness warmed Sue Yi's heart. Seeing that Sue E was not very obedient, Han Euro angrily glared at Sue E. Her light eyelashes were full of rebuke. I know you have a grudge with the Long family, but you can't be so forceful. The Long family is not the sacred mountain. To be able to stand at the top of the sky barbarians, don't they have some skills? Sue E smiled and nodded. He obediently listened to Han Euro's lecture and nodded repeatedly. Her words were crude, but the truth was not. The Long family's origin domain realm powerhouses could use the Golden Dragon bloodline's powerful attack power and extremely strong physical strength to fight with the sacred flame. This time, if he had not activated his Golden Dragon true body, he would have suffered even more serious injuries just by relying on his combat strength that was above his cultivation level. The Long family was indeed a terrifying existence. No wonder Draconis was unwilling to give up on the Golden Dragon bloodline and still wanted to open the Golden Dragon mystery realm. But the more anxious he was, the calmer Sue E felt. This proved that the Long family had not opened the Golden Dragon mystery realm yet. Commander! Commander! Another muffled roar came from the horizon. Sue E did not need to turn around to know that Han Wulong had arrived. His broad body rushed over like a ferocious beast in human form, stirring up wind and fire in the air. I'm here! Sue E shook his head and smiled bitterly. This father and daughter pair were really abnormally concerned about him. Secmaster Han, how have you been? Elder Yu and Zhong Kong were slightly shocked. Everyone had a deep relationship with the Boundless Sect, but this was the first time they had seen Han Wulong so concerned about someone. Han Wulong had a smile on his face. After his burning gaze swept over everyone and saw their injuries, his brows immediately sank. Raising his tiger-like eyes, Han Wulong approached Sue E and quickly fixed his gaze on the bloody wounds on his body. He looked at Han Euro and frowned. This girl, I heard that you were injured, so I had to come no matter what. Han Wulong was a little apologetic. Han Euro's big watery eyes widened even more after hearing this. She shouted, Father, what are you still standing there for? Bring Sui home. Then what do you mean, Commander? Han Wulong poured his Yuan Qi into Suyi's body. The Yuan Qi in the latter's body was like a dried-up old well, and the people around him were also severely injured. Chapter 2090. Muttering to himself, Sue E raised his eyebrows. Viciousness flashed in his eyes as he said, Now that we've come this far, it's time to see the results. The Long family is the only one with the Golden Dragon bloodline in the Heavenly Barbarians. Hearing this, Han Wulong was stunned for a moment before he nodded and laughed. Elder Yu, Lord Yin Khan, let's go. Back to the Boundless Sect. The Boundless Sect will be your home from now on. Let's go. Sue E smiled. By saying this, Sue E handed Upper Dragon Village over to the Immeasurable Sect, which was tantamount to tying himself to the Immeasurable Sect. The entire Boundless Sect would live and die with Sue E from now on. This was naturally something that Han Wulong yearned for the most. Because of his Golden Dragon bloodline, the Boundless Sect had been suppressed by the Long family all these years. This was not in line with his character. After saying that, Han Wulong waved his hand and angrily called out to the experts behind him. They quickly gave the medicine they brought to the heavenly dragon village. After a short rest, they returned to the boundless sect with the villagers. Before leaving, everyone turned back to look at their homeland. Everyone present was tearing up, their eyes full of reluctance. Although this land was simple, without many decorations or sufficient spiritual chi, it was the hometown of every heavenly dragon village villager. Their homeland was like a bright moon that always warmed their hearts. When they turned back, not only Liu Kan, but also Liu Qi, Elder Yu, and the others, there was incomparable determination in their eyes. Unspecified currency W, forever square root K, free fee. Y looks at S, small square root, say, QV0, at O. Everyone knew that the heavenly dragon village had awakened. Finally, it was time to officially declare war on the Long family. Su Yi calculated in his heart. Now that the holy mountain was cleared, the Xiahong house would stand on his side. The boundless sect, demon-subduing sect, imperial palace, and Bawang sect of the chaos region combined the strength of the four sects was already extraordinary. Su Yi knew that the time to truly set foot on the Long family was getting closer and closer. There was not much time left for him to become stronger. Soon, he followed Han Wulong and the others back to the beautiful, boundless river with abundant spiritual chi. In the immeasurable river, there was a saying, immeasurable mountains and seas, the water is soft and the mountains are warm. On immeasurable mountain, thousands of rocks competed with each other for beauty. The green mountains were like black, and the green mountain scenery was quiet and beautiful. The vegetation was verdant and lush, and the trees that covered the ground were at least 1,000 years old. This was where the immeasurable gate was located. The spiraling spiritual energy on it was comparable to that of the drive, the Heavens River. It was definitely an excellent place for cultivation. The word boundless was derived from the meaning of boundless body, beyond the reach of ordinary people. Meanwhile, on the shore of the boundless limitless sea, the towering cliffs formed a sharp contrast with the towering limitless gate. On the rock walls, there were countless secret cultivation caves created by the immeasurable sect. The inside of these caves was vast and boundless, preserving the immeasurable sect's codex that had been cultivated for generations. It was a place where only the core disciples of the immeasurable sect could enter to cultivate. As for Su Yi, he was arranged to stay in the most secretive secret room in the most secretive cave. He was protected by the Infinity Gate, and even the people of the Upper Dragon Village were not allowed to visit him. On the first day of his arrival at the immeasurable sect, Su Yi's daily necessities were all taken care of by Han Yuro. Apart from that, Han Yuro was even more worried about Su Yi's recovery. Even if Su Yi was unwilling, he would still send the chief alchemist to check on him every day. After being rejected by Su Yi time and time again, Han Yuro also gave up on the idea. The secret room that Su Yi was in was completely silent. No one came to visit him. This secret room, made of primal crystal stones, just happened to allow Su Yi to open up his mysterious space. When it came to treatment, when it came to spirit medicines, who could compare to him? Boom! Sitting cross-legged, the mysterious energy of the mysterious space spread out in all directions. Su Yi's entire body was soaked in the spirit pool. During his rapid recovery, he drank the spirit liquid when he was thirsty and chewed on the roots left behind by the blood jade spirit ginseng when he was hungry. In the mysterious space, all kinds of medicinal pills were neatly arranged by Qi Feihong beside him. Looking at little handsome Su sleeping soundly beside him, Su Yi unconsciously spat softly. Your big brother almost died, and you don't even know how to get up to help. If you were here, I would have had more strength when I went to the Long family. Su Yi sighed heavily. Thinking of little handsome Su's arrogant appearance, Su Yi still missed him quite a bit. This was the only remaining god in the world, the Phoenix, a true spirit beast. Su Yi couldn't do anything about it, since he didn't wake up for a long time. He pondered in his heart. Perhaps this little fatty would only wake up on the day he faced the immemorial Great Tribulation. Shaking his head, Su Yi closed his eyes tightly and soaked his broken body in the spirit pool. He tried his best to feel the wonderful feeling of the spirit liquid energy entering his meridians through his pores. As soon as he entered the spirit pool, his meridians were wrapped in a layer of energy film. The vast energy nourished his meridians, and the stars behind Su-yi reappeared. The vast galaxy flowed endlessly, and a majestic aura gradually enveloped Su-yi's body. Looking at the profound spirit fire liquid slowly gathering in his dantian, Su-yi's heart trembled slightly. After going through the terrifying battles with experts, his meridians and flesh had endured unimaginable experiences. They were torn apart and reborn again and again. At this time, Su-yi discovered that in the process of his dantian's qi and blood constantly filling up, the 21st profound gate also began to show signs of loosening. "I'm about to break through," Su-yi whispered in joy, and the corner of his mouth raised into a happy smile. Strength was what he lacked the most right now. Thinking of Draconis's unfathomable strength, Su-yi's heart was full of seriousness. Immediately, he focused all his attention, closed his eyes, and calmed his qi to heal. Not long after, the energy threads hidden in the space hit Su-yi's body like a storm. The aura surging out of his body fluctuated rapidly, and the high-speed roar was like a thunderstorm. The explosion resounded through the air, and light flashed. Just like Han Yuro, Han Wulong was busy the moment he returned to the Immeasurable Sect, as if he was preparing for battle. The Immeasurable Sect was one of the 3 sects and 4 factions of the One Mountain, 2 religions, and 3 sects. In terms of size, it was comparable to the Sacred Mountain. As an extremely powerful figure in the 6 continents, 3 prefectures, and 1 sea, Han Wulong was already at the 9th level of the Origin Ancestor realm before reaching the age of knowing destiny. He had absolute authority in the Immeasurable Sect. However, when it came to using the entire sect's strength to go against the Long family, facing the strongest existence in the Sky Barbarian realm alone was no different from courting death. There were many objections in the Immeasurable Sect. Back in the Upper Dragon Village, Su-yi had already expressed his intention to go all out against the Long family. This was like a reassuring pill for Han Wulong. As someone with the Golden Dragon bloodline, Han Wulong couldn't wait any longer. As soon as he returned to the sect and settled the descendants of the Golden Dragons, he continued the meeting. He directly rejected the Golden Dragon plan proposed by the Long family's experts. After bribing the elders, the Immeasurable Sect entered the stage of war preparation. Han Wulong only hoped that the day Su-yi came out of seclusion, the Immeasurable Sect would be unified and work together to deal with the Long family. Chapter 2091. 2 days passed quickly while the Immeasurable Sect was recovering. Looking in from the outside, it had been a long time since there had been any movement in the stone chamber. At night, the sea breeze was bleak. Han Yuro's black hair fell like a waterfall, and her eyes sparkled with starlight. Under the reflection of the silver light, her skin was smooth and beautiful. However, she didn't have the mood to appreciate the beautiful night view of the unluminous sea. Her heart was hanging on Su-yi's body in the secret chamber. Standing on her tiptoes, she stretched her neck and looked into the secret chamber. Her brows were full of worry. She wondered how Su-yi was recovering in there and whether he had encountered any difficulties. Han Yuro kept asking herself these questions. Her frowning brows were like 2 crescent moons. Roar! The night wind with a faint fishy smell whistled through the air. It was like a screeching owl piercing through the sky. It blew the hair on Han Yuro's forehead high. Han Yuro stood upright. Her red lips were tightly pursed. Her hands were placed in front of her chest. An indescribable sadness appeared on her tender face. Thinking back to before, when they were both in Yinzhou, the news of the wedding at the Heavenly Palace had spread like wildfire. Even though she was deep in the palace, how could she not know? In those few days, she seemed to have sunk into emptiness and pain. She herself didn't know when she had fallen in love with this man. Was it the first time they met in Soyun County? Or was it the heroic rescue before the earthquake? Or was it the bravery of taking first place in the Heavenly Palace Soul competition? Or was it the miracle of a genius that was spread by word of mouth? Facing this kind of person who always looked indifferent, but cared more about what he thought than anyone else. He was willing to risk his life to protect the person he loved. No one would not be moved. Han Yuro had always been the apple of Han Wulong's eye since she was young. Naturally, she would vaguely follow the template of someone who could protect himself and was brave enough to take responsibility to find her sweetheart. Even though Su Yi was already married, when she heard the news of Su Yi's accident, Han Yuro's heart was in turmoil. She still rushed over as soon as possible. At that time, there was only one thought in Han Yuro's mind. She had to bring Su Yi back safely, even if it was her own wishful thinking. The deep night sky was quiet and long. Amidst the brilliant light, Han Yuro shook her head forcefully, forcing herself not to think about these questions. After a long while, Haifeng seemed to have stopped. Han Yuro raised her head as if she was relieved. She shook her head and laughed at herself. In a low voice, she muttered, "Yuro, oh Yuro, you really are stupid. How could his heaven and earth be in the limitless gate? What about Han Yuro?" In the distance, an enormous figure in the dark seemed to heave a sigh of relief, and a trace of dejection surged out from its pair of bright tiger eyes. Boom! Suddenly, ripples appeared in the small space behind Han Yuro. It was Han Wulong walking over with heavy footsteps. After 2 days, under Han Wulong's insistence, the immeasurable gate finally came to a consensus. The bloodline of the Upper Dragon Village was temporarily placed in the immeasurable gate. "Daughter, is Su Yi still not out yet?" Hearing her father's voice behind her, Han Yuro's body trembled slightly. She stretched out her soft hand and pretended to rub her eyes, quickly wiping away the moisture at the corner of her eyes. She turned her head and smiled. "Not yet. Today is the second day." Looking at Han Yuro's bright appearance, Han Wulong was stunned for a moment. Then he nodded and muttered, "It's fine. Father will wait with you." After saying that, Han Wulong held Han Yuro's small hand and walked towards the beach. The brilliant waves were like silver fish, overflowing with color under the sky. The two sat on the beach and looked at the bright moon in the sky. Han Yuro took the opportunity to wrap her arms around Han Wulong's shoulder. The tip of her nose was slightly sore. "Father, when Su Yi comes out, I don't want to stay in the immeasurable gate anymore. I want to go out for a walk." As her father, how could he not know what Han Yuro meant? She probably didn't want to stay in the immeasurable gate anymore. Han Yuro had been spoiled since she was young. Han Wulong sighed in his heart. Why did his daughter have to meet such an ambitious person who didn't care about her? Han Wulong sighed in his heart and forced a smile. He lowered his muffled voice and said as gently as possible, "Ro, listen to Father's story." "Okay, Father?" Han Yuro raised her head. A trace of doubt appeared in her misty eyes, but she still nodded. Once upon a time, there was a young man who was extremely talented since he was young. However, this young man wanted to reach the peak of martial arts. All day long, he looked for people to compete with. In one of the secret realms, this young man was taught a lesson by a demon emperor realm savage beast. From then on, he was left with extremely serious injuries. His cultivation regressed, and he experienced all kinds of hardships. And then, Han Yuro's gaze trembled slightly. She suddenly realized that there was a trace of strangeness in Han Wulong's eyes. In the sect, some elders didn't give up on him. They searched all over Yinzhou for him, looking for the heavenly barbarians. In the end, they finally found an ancient village. It was said that this ancient village had the inheritance of a strange divine beast. The sect and the young man spent a lot of effort and finally received the recognition of the inheritor in the village. They were guided to a place called the Chaos Region to receive the true divine beast's inheritance. Han Yuro swallowed a mouthful of saliva. Her beautiful and slender neck stretched slightly under the moonlight. Han Yuro seemed to understand the meaning of the story. Han Wulong was clearly talking about his past. Head slash. But how could the inheritance of a divine beast be so easy? The young man went through a lot of hardships before he finally obtained this rare bloodline. Han Yuro hugged Han Wulong's arm and rested her head on his bulging muscles. She whispered, "Father, what are you trying to say?" With a chuckle, Han Wulong let out a long sigh of relief. He tilted his head and glanced at the pearl in his palm from the corner of his eyes. Yes, this young man is father. The ancient village is the Upper Dragon Village. The divine beast's inheritance is the golden dragon's inheritance. What father wants to say is that back then, the boundless sect didn't give up on father. Father also didn't give up on himself. I didn't have the slightest thought of escaping. No matter how difficult it was, father never thought of giving up. Han Yuro raised her head. A layer of mist instantly appeared in her eyes. Han Wulong's gaze immediately became firm. The Long family has been eyeing the boundless sect covetously for many years. This time, they invited father to the chaos region on the surface. In fact, it's very likely that father will never return. But father doesn't want to escape anymore. This is a trial that must be passed. Father, Han Yuro frowned. It turned out that Han Wulong wasn't just comforting her. He was also telling her about the crisis that the boundless sect was facing. Suddenly, Han Yuro couldn't hold back the sadness in her heart. She threw herself into Han Wulong's arms and sobbed softly. In the dark night, Han Wulong's face became kind for the first time. He stretched out his broad and rough hand and smiled as he stroked Han Yuro's hair. Chapter 2092. Aren't they all half-step Yuan Tian? Even Elder Kong can't beat them? Han Yuro stopped crying. This is the horror of the Long family. The Golden Dragon bloodline is extraordinary, and Draconis' bloodline has undergone a transformation that only happens once in 10,000 years. He can be said to be the strongest in the Long family. Now that he is already half-step Yuan Tian, he may soon be the second person to reach the peak of Yuan Tian on this continent. At that time, no one will be able to stop him. Is it really that terrifying? A touch of shock flashed across Han Yuro's eyes, and her weak body began to tremble unconsciously. Han Wulong nodded helplessly. Looking at Han Yuro, his eyes were incomparably firm. "Rower, father won't give up, but will you give up?" A heavy sense of mission instantly pressed down on Han Yuro's body. Raising her head, Han Yuro also instantly understood. In front of the survival of the sect, what was love? How could she abandon the infinite sect? If she left, it would be a potential threat to the infinite sect. After pondering for a long time, Han Yuro's eyes instantly became clear, and the sadness from before was swept away. She took a deep breath and said, "Father, Rower understands. Rower will not give up." Han Yuro's understanding made Han Wulong feel very gratified. His hands unconsciously held Han Yuro tightly, and a trace of happiness appeared in his eyes. This daughter of his was like a treasure to him. If it was someone else who hurt her heart like this, he would have already chopped that person into pieces. But unfortunately, this person was Su-yi. Turning around, Han Wulong's sharp eyes fell on the secret cave behind him. A series of strange spatial fluctuations also appeared on the beach, causing the nearby trees to rustle. This guy, he will never give up. Han Wulong smiled slightly. He knew that Su-yi must have come out of seclusion. Immediately, the father and daughter stood up, and their expectant eyes shot out. A bright flame streaked across the sky, and then the flame steadily landed on the beach. Red light flickered in the night sky. Inside the light, a green robe fluttered, transcending the mortal world. A strange, majestic power lingered around Su-yi like a roaring dragon. Looking at Han Wulong and Han Yuro from afar, a vortex formed under Su-yi's feet. His figure flashed like lightning and arrived beside the two, laughing heartily. "I've made you wait." The moment she saw Su-yi, the graceful Han Yuro smiled faintly. The pain she had hidden in her heart earlier had already been erased. She said in a low voice, "Congratulations on recovering." Su-yi nodded politely and sized up Han Yuro. There was a calm charm hidden in her eyes, and Su-yi couldn't help but be amazed. "Lord Commander, did he break through again?" The inexplicable transformation was far beyond Han Wulong's expectations. His mouth was agape for a long time, full of amazement. At this time, Han Yuro also noticed Su Yi's jade-like appearance. He was handsome and outstanding, and his skin was emitting a clear luster. He definitely had the temperament of a master. Su Yi stretched out his hands and looked at the changes around him with joy. It turned out that forcefully opening the golden dragon's aura this time had given him a rare experience. The extraordinary experience had stimulated all the medicinal effects and remaining energy that had been accumulated in his body, helping him break through to the 4th level of the Origin Ancestor realm in one go and open 21 profound entrances. However, what exceeded Su Yi's expectations was that after opening another profound entrance, there were no other changes, and he didn't comprehend any new profound spirit techniques. Previously, when he used the Sorrow Star to kill the sacred flame, he had used 3 drops of mysterious spirit fire liquid. This time, after his cultivation had increased, he still had 6 drops of mysterious spirit fire liquid, which could support him for 3 breaths of time to open the Sorrow Star. It's all luck. It's just that I don't know when I'll be able to break through again. Su Yi smiled faintly, but his eyes flashed with a hint that he was still too slow. Upon hearing that, Han Wulong couldn't help but roll his eyes. He had just said that he was extremely talented, but compared to this monster in front of him, he was simply too miserable to look at. He wasn't even 20 years old, but he was already at the 4th level of the Origin Ancestor realm. Didn't that mean that he had lived for more than 20 years in vain? Commander, you're really modest, Han Wulong said in a muffled voice, obviously unconvinced. Han Yuro also smiled and tilted her head to look at the godlike young man in front of her. She said seriously, Su Yi, what do you plan to do next? Su Yi looked at Han Wulong again. Han Wulong also told Su Yi about the situation in the Boundless Sect, as well as the Boundless Sect decision to follow Su Yi and fight against the Long family. Great, we have another tyrannical force. Su Yi's eyes lit up as he looked at the clouds in the sky and said softly, originally, I didn't want to clash with the Long family so soon. After leaving the Yuqian Palace, I was prepared to go to the ancient Cloud Immortal sect. When Han Wulong heard that name, he immediately frowned. During the Tianfeng ranking tournament, Yin Zhongli had ordered that anyone who had news about Su Yi must report it immediately. The Yin family seemed to be inextricably linked to Su Yi. The Yin family was an existence that was second only to the Long family among the 5 ancient forces. In the past few decades, they had been fighting with the Long family to the death. However, for some reason, they had suddenly disappeared in the past few decades and kept a low profile, which had unknowingly increased the Long family's arrogance. Yin Zhongli, who was in charge of the Yin family, had always been recognized by the Tianyin continent as the only man who could defeat Draconis. Commander, how did you get involved with the Yin family? Narrowing his eyes, he recalled that Yin Zhongli had once asked him if he had seen a lady with a blood-patterned jade pendant. Wasn't he questioning him about seeing Yin Jing? Jing Wan and Fatty Wong are now in the Yin family. I still have to go to the Yin family. Yong Kgio. Read H novel S0 for free. Sighing softly, Su Yi twisted his neck and a glimmer of light flashed in his eyes. He said softly, there are some things that I have to get answers to. By the way, sect leader Han, do you know how to get to the ancient Cloud Immortal sect? Han Wulong shook his head without hesitation and said softly, the ancient families each live in their own small worlds and have their own unique space laws that are unknown to the world. In the Yuqian Palace, Su Yi had also looked up the history of the ancient Cloud Immortal sect in the Heavenly Scroll House. However, there were no records of the location and direction. Originally, he did not have much hope, so he took a deep breath. It seems that the ancient Cloud Immortal sect is quite mysterious. Su Yi's eyes trembled. He had to start worrying about how to get to the ancient Cloud Immortal sect. Commander, what about the members of the Long family who escaped? The Long family will definitely take action. Han Wulong's eyes were solemn. In the night sky, Su Yi also frowned. Now, the Immeasurable Sect had placed the Shanglong bloodline in the Immeasurable Sect. If Longya reported back, Draconis would definitely do anything for the Golden Dragon Mystery Territory. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.